A man is waiting under the rain when he notices a weak young lady fallen on the ground, making him nervous. He asks if she is okay and screams that someone has fallen on the ground. There is no one there, so he decides to help her. She asks him to give her a mouthful of human fluid. The thoughts of vampires that take human fluid instantly ran through his mind, scaring him and making him exclaim how crazy this was. He called for an ambulance, but there was no one there. He then wonders if this is the real thing. She tearfully pleaded that she would do anything, making him look at her nervously but feels pity for her. He ends up giving her the human fluid, which was pathetic and totally lame, and that is how the two met each other for the very first time. After a while, when she regains consciousness, she kneels and thanks him, telling him her name is Sumire, and she's a vampire, then asks how she can repay him. He tells her it was nothing, and she responds of how humble he is and asks if he was a samurai, but he responds he's just an ordinary guy. She bows to him, exclaiming that he saved her and should allow her to do something for him, but he rejects, telling her she doesn't have to. At his apartment, she asks to be pardoned for the intrusion, and he nervously thinks of how he couldn't leave her out in the rain, so he ends up bringing her back to his home. She asks if his roommates are around, but he responds that he is a bachelor and lives on his own. He apologizes for the mess as he tries tidying the room and tells her he doesn't usually have guests over. His name is Yakumo Ren. She is happy and tells him he is the perfect human for every vampire. Looking at her, Ren tells her that she is drooling. She tells him vampires are trained every day to take humans and also begs to help with anything at all, while Ren just stares blankly at her and responds that he doesn't truly need help with anything, making her think of what she can do. She examines his body with her vampire thermography and informs him his circulation is terrible, and he responds of having a sedentary job. She concludes by giving him a massage, but he refuses, saying he doesn't think it is right to make her do something like that as they just met, but she pleads with him to let her do it till he finally agrees. She sat on his back for the massage and felt like she was riding a horse. She comments on how huge he is, and he responds that it is painful to be that huge. She tells him to relax, as she will start by massaging his shoulder. She uses her fist to massage his shoulder and asks him if it feels good, but he responds that it tickles a bit, which means it is not working. She proceeds to stand on his back and thinks of how uncool it looks, and he tells her to keep it up, making her apply more pressure, and he responds that he is feeling it now. After the massage, she hugs his hands with love and expresses how nice he is, and also has tons of fluid, which she comments on as being super tasty, and reveals that he is the best human in the world. This makes him fidget, and he replies that he has never been complimented like that before. He then proceeds to ask how it tastes, and she happily expresses that it has a deep spicy flavor and faint fragrance with an aftertaste that brings to mind a cool breeze on a summer day. This wows Ren, and he comments that she has an unexpectedly refined palate. She fiercely tells him she can't have only her own appetite satisfied and decides to prepare dinner, but becomes confused when it comes to differentiating between salt and sugar and proceeds to ask Ren for clarification, which prompts a surprised Ren to ask if she doesn't know the flavor. She puts on the gas, saying this is the kind of stove where fire comes out. In school, they use induction stovetops, which is a little different, which makes Ren ask if she will be okay. She starts her cooking on high flames while singing and replies to Ren that she's going to be telling him to enjoy the amazing sight of her cooking. The pot catches fire, making her scream as she freaks out. She cried loudly while holding the handle of the pot, and Ren handed her the lid of the pot, telling her to put the lid on and turn off the heat. After her cooking, she serves black burnt food on the plate and calls it sweet and sour pork, which Ren comments that it is certainly fragrant. She bows to him, crying loudly, saying she can't pay him back at all, but Ren isn't moved and calmly tells her he doesn't mean to pry, and asks why she fell into a place like that. She narrows her eyes and responds that the rules in the world of vampires are strict, and a dropout like her can't even take human fluid properly, and there is also no place for someone like her in the world of vampires, so that's why she can't go back. She tells him she wonders why life is hard, with tears in her eyes as she smiles, making Ren reply that both humans and vampires have it rough, and adds that he doesn't know how it is for vampires, but smiles and tells her if she doesn't have anywhere to go, she can stay here with him for now, making her nervously ask if that is up with him, which he responds that she doesn't seem like a bad girl and he has been feeling a bit lonely. She becomes very excited and jumps on his back, exclaiming how happy she is and thanking him, to which Ren replies that she must be cold after being out in the rain and tells her to wait while he runs her a bath. She exclaims happily feeling alive again while preparing to bathe. While in the bath, she loudly laughs, saying she is saved, dives in the water, and reasons that she doesn't have to bathe in the river anymore or lurk in the shadows of the alleyways, thanking goodness for this. She explains that the new home she was given was so warm that it brought tears to her eyes. She keeps thanking goodness while she sheds passionate tears. Ren smiles at her from outside the door. Later that night, Ren apologizes to her for not having a proper change of clothes for her, but she replies happily that she found herself a fantastic dress, which a nervous Ren calls his t-shirt, telling her to make do with that for today. Before sunset, she thinks of making him breakfast as he is still sleeping. She holds on to bread and wonders how bread is a staple food and why humans heat food that can be eaten as it is. She blocks the windows from sunlight while she prepares some soup and salad because they say it is good for nutritional balance. In the end, she prepared shredded veggies, a cup of ramen, and almost burnt toast. She also complimented on how human food is complicated but concluded that Ren will be more than satisfied with all she prepared. She gets the dining set and prepares to wake him up. She imagines how pleased Ren will be with her and how he will keep thanking her after waking him and serving him, and concludes that is the best plan. She proceeds to wake him and hopes he lets her take human fluid as a reward. Ren wakes up himself and opens the door, tiredly making her scream horribly at him, shattering her plans. She angrily yells at him why he woke up on his own, and he nervously responds that his alarm went off and apologizes. It was revealed that she stopped the alarm clock and put it under sunlight to burn while Ren looked blankly. While he eats, he comments on the room looking clean while she replies if he noticed it. She proudly tells him that she took the opportunity to tidy up while he was resting, making him thank her. He pats her on the head and she requests to be praised a lot while Ren thinks of her acting like a dog. Ren leaves for work and bids her goodbye while she tells him to have a nice day. She yawns and decides to get some sleep as the sun is up, but she recalls leaving her coffin behind and thinks of what else he used. She customizes a cardboard coffin with tapes and wonders if it is perfect, bids herself goodbye, and sleeps. After hours of sleeping, she slightly opens her eyes and finally wakes up to stretch, exclaiming that she slept like a log of wood. She gets out of the box and wears her leggings. She stretches, exclaiming to keep the pace going in the afternoon. She adjusts her hair and looks at the window, wondering if the laundry is dry. She goes out to bring in the clothes and wonders why the apartment doesn't get any sun in the afternoon and how fine the property is. She sniffs the clothes and exclaims of having the scent to being backed by the blasted sun, but there is something else about it. There is a strong smell of Ren like the wind in the ocean on a tropical island at night, and she is already salivating that somehow it is getting her appetite up, making her all hungry. She tries to control herself because Ren gave her human fluid yesterday, but she can't stop imagining how yummy Ren's physique is. She expresses how Ren's big body was, he having tons of human fluid and she needing a mouthful or two, unable to resist. Night came, but Ren is not home yet. He is seen walking home, expressing how stressful overtime was. Sumire jumps on him, exclaiming how hungry he made her and how he is so yummy that she couldn't resist him. He gives her human fluid and she apologizes for her mind going blank. He replies it was partially his fault and decides to get phones so they can at least contact each other. Days later, he arrives from work and she welcomes him, then announces to her that he was able to finish some of his work for the week and starting tomorrow he will be off. She was amazed to hear this and danced around in celebration, making him smile. He tells her they will have some time to themselves now and they should go shopping, making her jump and scream in excitement. She was eager to get going, but he stopped her and told her the dress was standing out a little too much. She responded that those were the only clothes she had. He informs her of them causing disturbance if they stand out too much and tells her he should go alone for today, making her throw herself to the ground in tears and a continuous scream of wanting to go with him. She tells him she can hide her wings so as not to cause attention, but he wraps her up in a cloth, making her feel loved. They went in search of a supermarket and they saw one nearby. They go in and Sumire exclaims how big it was and Ren replies is making her ask if they sell only human food. She expresses that humans have a system that makes it easy to procure food while vampires have nothing as invaluable as that. She climbs on Ren's back, attracting people while she expresses how meeting Ren turned out alright, but he tells her that if she fools around they will stand out and Ren stands out a lot. They get to the meat slot and Ren asks if they are out of the meat while an uninterested Sumire exclaims how the meat department is impressive and how you can feel the life in it. She lists packs of meat and tells Ren to eat lots of it to make tons of yummy fluid, but he tells her he can't buy that much. She sniffs out an odd smell and realizes the meat steak has garlic in it, but calls it bad-tasting meat instead. She calls it a human trap and says they can't get away with this, making Ren realize she doesn't like garlic. She exclaims horribly that it is not a matter of preference but makes her limb become paralyzed and breathing becomes impossible. And this is a thing developed as a countermeasure against vampires, making Ren perceive the steak too, but couldn't find anything. She asks if he understands what she is saying and he affirms. They get to the clothes section and he tells her this is what shopping is like and tells her to get some clothes while they are there, making her confirm if it is Uck, which he agrees. He tells her to pick whatever she wants and she replies that she is all teensy and picks a wear for herself. She changes into the clothes but complains of the cloth being tight around the upper area and expresses how hard it is to find clothes that fit, which Ren agrees to. She goes back to the changing room to wear an undershirt and a top. She exclaims how perfect it is for humans, and Ren agrees once again. They went to the cashier to pay for all they bought and were informed that it was 3,020 yen. The cashier informs Ren of walking late at night with the girl and him not look like they have any relationship, making Ren nervous and severely amazed. Sumire thinks of this as a chance to pull off a skillful deception and thinks of a male and a female pair being unnatural. She proudly responds to the cashier, telling her they are lovers, leaving Ren's jaw dropping out of shock. He nervously laughs, pats her head, and tells the cashier that she is a relative and he is just looking after her, and tells her she knows better how to tease him. Sumire asks Ren if she should have told them he grabbed her off the street and how worse it would be. They walked home and Sumire was happy. She smiled to herself, making Ren concerned. She tells him she has never had so much fun in her life before and she is having the time of her life, making him stare at her blankly and then smile. She dragged him along, saying since they came all this way, they should return home through another way, but unknowing to them, someone was behind them. It was a lady with dark long hair who recognized Ren, but didn't know Sumire, as both of them went home joyfully. As they walk, she asks him if walking around at night is fun. As she walks happily, she informs him that this is the time vampires are invincible and she can strut her stuff. She notices something off and asks an ignorant Ren if someone is following them. She yells at the person hiding in the shadows to come out. The lady with long dark hair comes out of her hiding place, nervously making Sumire exclaim of her being a female human, while Ren is perplexed. The terrified lady asks who Sumire is, but Sumire replies, saying she should be the one asking that. Sumire calls her a person who breaks home and says she was lured by Ren's delicious smell, but Ren cuts her off, saying the lady is not her, and tries to say who she is till Sumire catches her scent and goes to sniff the lady and becomes confused. Ren draws the lady closer to himself while Sumire asks if they are related, making Ren answer that they are in a relationship. Sumire expressed that they smell so similar and made Ren's sister sniff herself, but Ren tells her not to bother as she won't be able to tell. Ren's sister is Yakumo Minori, and she asks who Sumire is, expressing how young she looks, while Sumire was calm all of a sudden. Minori suddenly questions Ren if he took in a runaway schoolgirl, which Ren instantly declines. He whispers to Sumire that they need to tell the family what is really going on so that things won't go bad, which she agrees with. Sumire shyly tells Minori that she and Ren are life partners, while Ren tells Sumire not to complicate things. In Ren's house, he informs Minori that Sumire is a vampire, making her scream loudly. She calms down and smiles at Sumire, saying she is at the age where she gets brooding, making Sumire furious about Minori making fun of her. Sumire licks Ren's neck and tells Minori that she will show her how she takes Ren's fluid in detail, which angers Minori, who grabs Sumire and drags her away from Ren, screaming about what Sumire wants to do to him and tells her to get away from him. Sumire screams that Ren is hers, while Minori declines, and a frustrated Ren tells them he would appreciate it if they don't objectify him like that. Minori tells them she will try to accept that Sumire is a vampire, making Ren tell her not to choke. She suddenly brings out a disposable chopstick made like a cross and screams at Sumire, saying she won't let her have her Ren by the power of Christ. Sumire mockingly asks what the toy is, making Minori realize the cross isn't working. She looks at the cross, trying to phantom if she will need to drive a stake through her heart or use a silver bullet, but Sumire replies to her again that none of those things she is planning will work, and if she wants to defeat a vampire, she should use garlic making. Ren agreed to it as the easiest of all. Ren and Minori explain everything, and finally Ren informs Minori of Sumire living in his apartment, making Minori explain how kind he is to people. She explains to Sumire about understanding how things are tough for vampires, but how humans have their concepts of what's proper, and requests that Sumire come to replace because it will be wholesome and won't raise any eyebrows, making Sumire look in confusion. Sumire informs a nervous Minori and bites on her skin to take her fluid. She expresses that Minori's fluid is a bit fatty and tells her to exercise more before asking her to move in with her again, while Minori says bad things to Sumire. They wrestle, making Ren tell them fighting will not solve anything and they should all get along, which they stop, instantly exclaiming how immature they have been. Sumire ably smiles and asks them to shake hands, which Minori blindly agrees to. They shake hands, but Sumire squeezes Minori's hands and comments on how weak her handshake is while using her vampire super strength. Minori freaks out in pain, calling Sumire a freaking chimpanzee, while Ren wonders what he is going to do with both of them. A few nights later, Ren bids Sumire goodnight and goes to bed, and she begins to wonder how she always gets fluid from Ren every day, which is not always enough, and if she tries to take more from him, it will have an impact on his health, so she needs to form a plan. She excitedly brings out a book she uses in her vampire school and reads through it. She expressed that hunger can be mitigated by the use of milk. She realizes if she drinks milk between taking human fluid, she can alleviate both her own hunger and the burden on Ren's health after looking at the cycle in her note. She reads that human money can be exchanged for goods and services, but can't read the rest of the other note, and mad is when she recalls that that was the time the teacher got mad at her for falling asleep. She regretted not paying attention in class. She encourages herself that even if there were parts she couldn't understand, she knows that she can get milk at the store. She brings out a wallet with money in it given to her by Ren as allowance for emergencies and decides to go to the store to get some milk. She rushes down the hallway wanting to go to the store they went to previously, and it should take time as she has been there once, but unfortunately for her, she gets lost and doesn't know where she is. Someone calls out to her from behind and tells her she shouldn't be out walking around alone at night. The person was none other than Ren's sister. Sumire says back to Minori that isn't a young woman walking outside at night, making Minori reply that she is an adult and is on her way home from work and asks Sumire what she is doing around there at night. Sumire looks away telling Minori she is wandering and not lost, but Minori could sense the lie in it and knew she was lost. Sumire tells Minori of her plan, and Minori responds that she heard that woman's milk is quite close to human fluid and she can see the logic in it. Minori directs Sumire to a convenience store close to them, and Sumire appreciates her. She comes out moments later with bags with milk in them and happily meets Minori, where she waits while Sumire tells her the milk should reduce the burden on Ren. When Sumire looks closely at the milk, she discovers some of them are not real. She bangs on the floor in frustration, exclaiming how malicious it is to use similar packaging and calling it a human trap, making Minori think of her as more of an idiot. Back home, she tries out the milk and comments that it is good and not far from human fluid and takes some edge off the hunger. She wonders what to do with the other ones she bought by mistake, and tossing them would be a waste, so she will give them a try. She happily comments how this was close to the consistency of human fluid and how she should have been drinking this earlier instead. She becomes full but lands in the closet, and it is revealed that the unreadable part of the notebook says beware of similar products. After sunrise, Ren wakes up and greets Sumire but realizes she is worn out, making her respond that she is on a diet, but he sees the lie in it. He exclaims all these happened while he was sleeping, and she responds that she doesn't want to increase the burden on his health, but her stomach starts growling. He tells her since she means well to him too, she can come and have a sip to celebrate, making her jubilant. She takes on his fluid and he tells her not to force herself. She exclaims that he is spoiling her, making him reply that the thought alone is more than enough. At night, in Ren's workplace, there was pressure everywhere and he was tense. He wonders how everything is on fire with the project at hand, which is bad. He answers a call apologizing for the inconvenience caused and assuring of treating the urgency. When he left work, he was stressed and worried about work. He walks in still in thought, but Sumire suddenly jumps on him, welcoming him and tells him she has been waiting. He looks blankly, adjusts his glasses and smiles. While walking through the hallway, he comments on liking someone here with him, making Sumire confused. She asks why he is later than before, and he responds that there was a big panic at work and he spent the whole day apologizing, which was so busy that he wished he had extra pairs of hands. On hearing this, Sumire doges to him and tells him to leave apologizing to her and saying she is super good at it, but he ignorantly asks if that was a really good doge. She ignores the question and announces she prepared him dinner, happily making him freak out, but she tells him she gave it her all, and it is not going to be burnt like when she first came. She brings a savory meal and calls it Salisbury steak, while Ren comments it looks really good. The kitchen was very messed up and Ren calls it a broken kitchen. She responds that they are wounds earned in battle. She hops and announces that she filled a bathtub, which he thanks her for, and she tells him to take a bath first. Ren got in the tub and there was barely enough space and water in the tub, but when it was Sumire's turn, there was barely enough water in the tub for her to use, and Ren told her to refill it. When they are done bathing, Ren tells her he had a rough day and thanks to her he will be able to give it all it takes the next day. She blushes and tells him to stop or she'll blush. She responds to Ren that she is not really asking for a reward, but would appreciate it if she can get today's fluid, till she checks on him to find out he is asleep. She thinks of him being so tired and falling right asleep, and despite his job every day, he still lets her take his fluid. She hugs him and bids him good night. In the shadows, voices can be heard of how crazy the place is, and it was said that a familiar vampire smell is lingering in the place teeming with humans. 2 other vampires like Sumire were seen, and one was holding a long sword. She is telling the other that they should go take a look, and the other comments that her nose is as good as ever. Sumire blushes and decides to let Ren sleep and decides to use the opportunity to clean up the messed up kitchen. She perceived an unfamiliar scent coming from the door. She tried looking at them through the peephole on the door. Unfortunately, there was a crash and rustle sounds waking Ren up from his sleep. He put on his glasses to see that the 2 other vampires had bundled Sumire and tied her mouth. One of them apologizes for waking him up, making him realize they were vampires like Sumire. One of them introduces herself as Dahlia, and Ren tells her who he is while extending his business card to her and thinks of how friendly she was all of a sudden. Dahlia exclaims wanting to keep Ren's mouth shut by turning him into a snack, but Ren takes back his earlier comment about her and says she is too bad. Sumire screams at them not to touch Ren. Dahlia laughs, loudly squeezing Sumire's head, telling her to shut up or she will see her head off, making Sumire apologize. Ren nervously tells them not to handle Sumire roughly while Sumire screams his name. Dahlia tells Sumire to quit struggling and asks her partner if she can behead them in order to get rid of the evidence, which her partner disagrees with. Dahlia's partner tells her to hold on to find out, as it seems Sumire and Ren know each other, which Dahlia concurs with. She calls her partner Kikyu and tells her she was thinking about it too, while Ren thinks of it not being what she said moments ago. After the narration, the other vampires realize how lucky Sumire was to find such a nice person, while Sumire and they aren't setting her free. Kikyu thanks Ren for saving one of their own and for keeping their existence a secret, which nervous Ken replies no problem to. Kikyu tells Ren they will be on their way with Sumire, making her look confused. She tries to free herself, saying she's not going. She falls and wriggles like a maggot towards Ren, saying she knows they work well together, and she doesn't need to go home as she can just live there, which Ren agrees to and expresses how lively the house is with Sumire around. Kikyu declines, saying they may be good together, but they would be throwing the vampire world into considerable disarray. With that, Dahlia, who was smiling, tightened her fists and told Sumire to come along, quietly terrifying both Sumire and Ren. An already rumbling Dahlia tells Sumire to follow them and offers to give her a hand, dragging Sumire by the shirt. Ren grabs Dahlia's hands, telling her to hold on, and tells them because Sumire doesn't have a place in their world, she ends up falling in the rain, but they say they want to take her back home is a little too convenient. This word of Ren makes Sumire amazed. Dahlia laughs loudly and replies to Ren to tell the person in charge of Sumire's education who neglected her that they have their own job to do. Ren and Dahlia drive for Sumire, but Ren is not giving in, making Dahlia tell Kikyu of Ren being stubborn and not backing down, and also asks if she should get rid of him. Ren, Kikyu, and a smiling Dahlia stare at each other. Kikyu tries to consider saying they can't just set her loose after finding her, and tells Ren she understands his point and his force of will. She informs them that she needs to discuss what happens next, and she is going to make a report, also telling Dahlia to wait with them. Dahlia comments how soft Kikyu is, but states she likes that about her, while Sumire is boiling in anger. She turns into a bat to make a conference-like call with Dahlia, while Sumire and Ren stare at them, with Ren saying they have been talking for long, while Sumire asks him to predict the outcome. Dahlia is seen communicating with a bat and tells them she has gotten his name down, while Ren replies that all she is saying is messed up. Kikyu comes back, making Ren and Sumire exclaim in surprise, and she informs them she has handled the situation now. Kikyu asks if Sumire was really in the class and sees the reason why she is not eager to go back, while Ren wonders what the class is. She informs an eager Sumire and Ren that they have decided to handle the situation, stating that Sumire is breaking their laws, but they can look at it as a good set of circumstances. As long as she takes a specialized educator and escort, she will be allowed to live with the human on a trial basis. Kikyu informs Sumire of the final conclusion that she will be her educator, while Dahlia will be the escort. Dahlia laughs out loud. Sumire happily jumps around Ren, saying she can finally stay with him. He laughs with her, but Kikyu cuts them, saying they will need to prepare a space, which Dahlia informs her of the vacant room next door, which will be convenient. The next evening, Kikyu and Dahlia set up their base next door. Ren is shocked seeing Dahlia cutting the walls, saying moving between rooms will be stressful, so she will just make a shortcut. Kikyu, the clock, expresses that Ren raises the funds and Sumire does the housework like she said, and this is just the perfect time. She calls out to Sumire, telling her she will fix supper for the lad, which is Ren, so they will see what she can do. Sumire was excited and full of energy that she was given a chance to show off her skill, and she will give it her all. She ends up preparing what she calls the delicacy of the sea and mountain rice, which infuriates Kikyu, who tells her not to play with food, making Sumire answer that she is serious. Kikyu explains that even if the present human society is in a time of gluttony and sanitation, it was hard work and much effort to lay hands on that much food. Dahlia announces this is one of Kikyu's olden days story time. Kikyu lends Dahlia's sword and tells Sumire to pull down her pants, which Sumire asks what she wants to do, but Kikyu tells her it is educating and hits her, making Sumire scream loudly. Later that night, Dahlia comments on Ren, saying he is gigantic and she is tall but not up to him. Kikyu checks out his arms, imagining them to be like logs, and says humans of his type are splendid specimens. Sumire stretches her nose and proudly agrees, making Dahlia ask why her nose is in the air or she will cut it down to size. Dahlia hugs Ren, telling him she is starting to feel hungry and would like to taste his fluid, which Ren tells her to stop making people feel like a snack. Dahlia adjusts to Ren, ready to take a bite, when Sumire fires at her, saying Ren is her partner, but Dahlia insists that she wants just a little, which Sumire disagrees with. Kikyu hands a fluid pack to Dahlia, telling her to drink that instead, but Dahlia complains of being fed up with fluid packs and wants to drink from the source. Dahlia blames Ren for having a yummy-looking body, making Ren apologize, for which Kikyu questions him for telling him not to get trapped in her nonsense. Sumire raises her hands to ask Kikyu a question. She says Ren has not been energetic lately, which may be due to her drinking his fluid, and when he goes to bed, it is like he is falling. She asks Kikyu what she should do in this kind of situation, which makes Kikyu affirm that Sumire noticed his exhaustion after all. If not, she would have given her some education, making Sumire a bit joyed, while Dahlia is pleading to get her sword back from Kikyu. Kikyu states that there are two possible solutions. The first is to feed the subject with plenty of nutrition and relaxation, and the second is to reduce the amount of fluid she drinks. Kikyu decides to start with the first by cooking, and states that the lad might be suffering from an iron deficiency and is close to being anemic. She tells Sumire to feed him with food with high iron contents and have him rest. Ren eats and Sumire jots down what is being taught, while Kikyu explains the second solution. Once the quality of his fluid has been raised, she will help him by taking a little of his fluid, and keeping the lad in good shape will create a good cycle. Kikyu also adds that Sumire can also give an appropriate massage to improve his fluid, which Sumire responds that she tried, but Ren's body is stiff. Dahlia tutors Sumire how to give a massage by massaging Ren with her absurd super strength in her elbow, making Ren scream in pain as the massage takes effect. Shay stretches Ren's hands and tells him once he gets used to it, he will be good, and adds that she will collect just 200 ml of his body fluid as payment, making Ren wonder why she hasn't given up yet. Sumire gets furious and walks up to Dahlia, telling her she will continue the massage for Ren, which makes a laughing Dahlia ask if she is jealous, but Sumire denies it. Kikyu gives Ren a fluid-producing drug, which he tries to find out about, and she tells him that it is a medicine that aids in restoring depleted fluid, and it is something like a nutrient drink created by vampires. She warns that it is not something he can drink all the time, but in this case, he can drink it to restore his lost strength quickly, which Ren gladly accepts and drinks. At first, there was no effect, but suddenly veins appeared all over his hands and body, making him exclaim how amazing it was. He suddenly gets so energetic that he wants to just get his body moving and ends up doing push-ups, while Sumire is happy that Ren is now energetic again. Ren's activeness begins to get out of hand, which Dahlia instantly complains of to Kikyu. Kikyu observes him and tells them it might not be normal, and that his body did not take the medicine well, which Dahlia responds that he took it too well. Ren suddenly announces going for a run and leaves, while Sumire tells him to wait a bit. All the three vampires have to fly to look for Ren after going wild. They see him running along the road as Dahlia calls out, and Sumire agrees. Sumire screams that she will stop him right away, flying towards his direction, but an energized Ren drags her along, making her scream in fear, while Kikyu wonders what Sumire is playing at and decides to go help stop him. Gigantic Ren drags Kikyu and Sumire as well while still running, while Kikyu screams at Dahlia for help, and Dahlia responds to the situation by being funny and wishes to keep watching. Dahlia, who seems to be the strongest among them, grabs Ren by the neck and stops him instantly. He is bundled and carried back home. Later that night, Ren is seen sitting in a corner of the room silently, while Dahlia exclaims how calm he is. Sumire sighs and thanks goodness, but is cut short by Kikyu, who tells them that is not all, and tells them after he recovered too much body fluid, his mind has flown to the coop, which shocks Sumire. Dahlia suggests they should drink the excess body fluid from Ren so he gets better, which Kikyu agrees to, while Sumire volunteers to drink his fluid. Eager Sumire exclaims she is learning how to handle emergencies, which is part of a partner's duty. Dahlia informs Sumire that she is drooling unknown to her. She informs them of her going for the drink. She drinks Ren's body fluid for a while till her tummy is full, and she asks if that was enough, while Kikyu examines him and replies that what she drank was not even clothes. Ren's veins are still out, and Sumire asks what they can do next, making Dahlia offer their help to her. She replies that Ren's life is irreplaceable, so she will allow them to drink him just this once. They pulled off Ren's shirt, and together they drank his fluid. A day passes until Ren finally opens his eyes, which Kikyu asks. Kikyu apologizes to Ren and tells him that never the fluid-producing medicine would have such an effect on him. He responds by saying there is light out and he slept all through the night, but she cuts in, informing him that he slept for up to 40 hours, making him exclaim half a day. She informs him of contacting his work and pretends to be his mother, letting them know he would be absent, making Ren exclaim that it was skillfully done. She also informs him that Sumire stayed by his side the whole time until she grew tired and fell asleep, which is not unexpected. Kikyu asks Ren how he is, as that is more important, making Ren feel his wrist, and responds that he feels good and his body feels light, which makes him think it was because he overslept after taking the medicine. Ren rather apologizes to them for causing them so much trouble, but Kikyu replies that he did nothing wrong, telling him Dahlia was able to drink a lot of body fluid and is high in spirit. Kikyu quickly arranges something for Ren to eat, asking if he must be hungry, and he thanks her in return. As Ren eats, he exclaims how amazing Kikyu is, saying even if she has a different palate from humans, her food is delicious. He looks up at her but realizes she fell asleep and wonders if she was also staying up till he was awake. He smiles, covers her with a cover cloth quietly, and thinks of how scary they were at first, but in the end, they turn out to be nice people. He plans on giving Dahlia a blanket too and moves towards her, but she springs up saying she is awake and she has always been shocking Ren. He exclaims that she surprised him and wonders what the snot bubble in her nose was. She informs him that she is on the lookout, so her eyes are always wide open, which Ren wonders, never seeing her eyes open before. A bat is seen whispering to Kikyu, while Dahlia announces that they have a message, which makes Kikyu finally call out to Sumire, telling her they must make an appearance at the academy. This announcement makes Sumire freak out and scream, while Kikyu informs her of her unwillingness to go, but this must be done properly, telling her to sort it out as Sumire sighs in surrender. Kikyu faces Ren and asks if he would like to come with them, which prompts him to ask if it is Oak, and Kikyu agrees. When they get to the academy building, Ren is amazed by the view before him, while 3 vampire students are seen complimenting seeing a human in their school, how tasty he looks, thinking of another class having hands-on lessons, and finally how he is making them hungry. Ren freaks out and Dahlia asks him what he is freaking out for, which makes him respond to her that the sight of him making vampires hungry is scary. One of the students thinks of Sumire's face and examines it while she glances along. It was announced that they had reached the entrance and a vampire welcomes Ren, expressing how pleased they are to have him. He is an old vampire and he tells Ren that he is the president of the school and his name is Tonerico, thanking Ren once again for coming. Tonerico tells Ren that he is a very important person when it comes to the future of the vampire's world, which is why he wants to meet Ren in person at least once, which makes Ren whisper to Sumire if he is really that important, while Sumire profusely sweats as she stares confused, which Ren noticed. Tonerico decides to break the current state of the vampire world down to Ren. He explains that the students in their school study all about humans from ecology, psychology, economics, international affairs, and so on, and fully fledged vampires are permitted to create contracts with humans, and the humans are commonly called retainers. So as they take the retainer's fluid, they use all their accumulated knowledge and innate abilities to help the retainer achieve societal success, and the more successful the retainer becomes, the deeper their bond with the vampire becomes, which secures a long-term fluid feed. Tonerico further explains that not all students follow that path. Instead, some end up in internal management, education, and others, which is said to be the image of the modern vampire. After listening to this, confirms that this means exchanging fluid for a super amazing personal assistant, which Tonerico agrees to. Tonerico tells Ren that while the human world evolves day by day, vampires find their place in the fading away world, which they must find a way to overcome. One of the vampires that accompanied Tonerico comments on his ability to use big words but lacks the willpower to back them up. The vampire explains that nothing is accomplished by coddling those who fail to save the falling vampire world, and they must increase their effort on the education, which will refocus them on the production of superior progeny. He then proceeds to ask Tonerico, the principal, if he plans to cast aside their traditions and pride. One of the vampires on headphones replies that the outcast students are causing trouble in the human world and they need to change tactics and create a system where even weaklings can survive, making a vampire with a bell on his head comment that cooperating with a human in an eat and be eaten relationship is difficult, and the most efficient way is to convert them to livestock, which solves the environmental issue and is an eco-friendly solution. The vampires argue with themselves, making Ren exclaim nervous about how things are getting heated, which makes Kikyu reply that vampires have their own factions too, also informing him that the first person to cut into the conversation is Sumire's former teacher, leaving Sumire at the brink of tears. As the vampires keep arguing, Tonerico cuts them, saying Ren came all the way to visit, so they should all take a deep breath, making them stand straight, and he informs them that the plan of action has been decided, which is allowing Ren and Sumire to continue their relationship. Kikyu whispers to the principal that Ren is clearly not comfortable where he is and they need to hurry, to which the principal concurs and apologizes. He smiles widely, telling them he awaits the results and thanks Ren for his time, which makes Kikyu bow to him, telling him they will take their leave now, while Sumire's former teacher informs them of the principal having high hopes for them. He tells them they expect dazzling results from them and would welcome a chance to visit the site, which would be illuminating. This makes Dahlia shut him up, telling him he is annoying, which makes him respond that worthless students attract worthless teachers. Ren and Sumire freaked out and hurriedly wanted to get out of there while Kikyu told them not to worry. As they exit the school, Sumire sighs, exclaiming how nervous she has been, while Kikyu comments that she did well, which makes Ren comment that there were some teachers that were tough, but thank God for the principal being an understanding man. This makes Kikyu look dearly at Ren, exclaiming how simple he is. She then tells him not to trust the principal too much. Suddenly, a bat informs them not to leave her behind, making a portal appear with a hand stretching forward, leaving Ren surprised. The vampire with the headphone from the school jumps out of the portal, taking Ren aback once again. She introduces herself as Mimosa, being in charge of technique development, and tells them to call her Memokin. She explains on the matter on the ground that just like Kikyu was saying, it's too early to trust the principal, and proceeds to give him a rough explanation. The vampire world is classified into 3 categories of factions: the conservative faction, the salvation faction, and the revolutionary faction. She further explains that they fall under the salvation factor, and the 3 factors have their different functions. The conservative faction consists of the old folks who want to double down on how they have been doing things before, while the salvation faction is the cute ones who want to stop the eradication of weak vampires and restore the vampire world. And lastly, the revolutionary faction are called the dork, who wants to seize any form of opportunity in order to establish a regime whereby the vampires rule. She informs them that Sumire's continued cohabitation was allowed due to their significant protest, making Ren ask curiously if the principal is from a different faction. She replies to him saying up until now the principal has taken a neutral stance when it comes to Sumire-kun's case. He quickly comes to an understanding of our point of view. She thanks Sumire for getting their point across, but is still worried that the principal left the dust box alone, making her conclude that definitely something must be going on behind the scenes. This confuses Ren as she opens a portal, telling him to step in as it will be easier to just show him than explain. They teleported high up to the dust box, making Ren explain how high they had come. Meimochin tells him to take a peek down, making Ren look down and ask if something is moving down there. Suddenly, a large number of horrible, hungry-looking vampires are seen trying to climb up the box, making Ren terrified and nervous, while Meimochin explains that this is the dust box, which is the prison where all the vampires who lost their place in the world end up. The condemned vampires are seen scratching, tugging, and biting their way up, as Meimochin further explains to a nervous Ren that after losing their mind from thirst, the vampires wait here for the rare scraps that are tossed to them, and under the current rules, Sumire will end up there one day, which the principal tacitly approves of. This leaves Sumire nervous, as Meimochin exclaims that a place like this shouldn't exist and should be removed. She finally announced she would be living with them as a record keeper, which Ren agrees to immediately and welcomes her. Dahlia challenges her if she also has it rough, which Meimochin declines, telling them she just feels it would be wrong for them to do as they please. Back home, Ren wonders how Sumire is on the verge of meeting a bad fate like that, and she is still just a kid, while Sumire peeks at him blankly. She suddenly hops up full of courage, telling Ren she will do her best and show everyone she can be a splendid vampire who is a big help to him. But she is cut off by Meimochin, telling her that is not what the test is about, any more confusing Sumire. Meimochin exclaims how cooperative Ren is and requests to drink some fluid as proof of their friendship, which Ren agrees to, telling her to take just a little, while Dahlia wants to go first and is being called out by Meimochin. They laughed loudly while Sumire stared blankly, unable to act, and Kikyu stared at her in pity as the night went by. At Ren's workplace, as he taps on his computer, he exclaims, finishing the meeting documentation and going through the figures to confirm if they are in order. He realizes that some noise coming from under his desk, and he checks it out in surprise, only to find a bat saying that the subject's daily activities are within the normal parameter, that his results are above average. He analyzes the voice and concludes it was Meimochin, which she agrees to. He looks around to avoid being caught and whispers what she was doing here, making her reply that it is her duty to make reports. He informs her that it's 10 in the morning and vampires are normally asleep by this time. Mimo is seen working from home as she tells him she is something of the day, making him exclaim how great it is. As Ren gulps down his coffee drink, he thinks of Mimo observing him, so he decides not to let his guide down. Meimochin called out to him, telling him if he wanted to drink coffee, he should drink the substance in the bottle that she handed him, making him curious and asking what it was. Ren is seen looking everywhere for Sumire, but cannot find her anywhere as he exclaims where she could be. He recalls Dahlia telling him she was in this area, but the smell of her fades little by little because of the sunlight, so he can't find her anywhere, and there is still more ground to cover. A worried little child called out his mom's attention towards Ren, asking her why the man was carrying an umbrella under the sun, making Ren nervous. He stared at the umbrella while in search of Sumire. He felt a note wrapped on the umbrella Kikyu gave him. When he reads through, he is informed not to be scared and to calm down, making him sigh. He proceeds reading, and he is informed that Sumire can take care of herself as she survived a long time before she met him, so he doesn't need to worry. He is further informed that Sumire might have something she needs to get off her chest, and it may be something she can't express in front of everyone. The note finally begged him to listen to whatever she had to say. After a while of searching, he found her sitting under the bridge crying alone. He observed her for a while and finally went to sit beside her. He nervously tells her sorry and why she's been holding something and that he never noticed. She squeezed her arms, tightly replying to him to tell her if it was okay with him. She raises her head in tears as he looks on at her. She reminisces on how he saved her when she ran away from the vampire world and how she wanted to repay his kindness, how she wanted him to expect great things from her, how she wanted him to count on her, but all she did was to mess up over and over again, and he did expect anything from her, making her wonder if he found her very existence a nuisance. Still crying, she recalls her situation being a mission and how she will keep having these miserable thoughts. She stares in tears, wishing she could disappear. Ren stares blankly and stands up, ignoring all her rants, telling her it's a sunny day and it has been a while since they were out together. He then requests they go for a walk, making Sumire's glow brightly in confusion, while Ren stretches his hand, telling her he has a parasol and everything. He then wraps Sumire up with a towel, while exclaiming how worried he was about the reason for his heavy-duty gear. He carried her under the parasol as people stared at them. The little boy from previously exclaims how they are making Sumire comments that they are standing out quite a bit, which Ren responds to not be a problem. Ren thanks her for talking to him and that he now understands how she feels. He explains that he thought that just laughing off her mistakes would make things easier for her. Instead, he was hurting her, and he is deeply sorry about it. He further explains that he wants her to always remember something, that these days everyone everywhere is desperately running the rat race, including himself, of course, and at the center of it all, he is being saved by her innocent warmth, and he will really love it if she stays by him. He explains that they will work hard to change things that are not working, thereby requesting her to stay with him. He cuts in, instantly saying forget it. This kind of talk is out of character for him, making Sumire laugh, replying that she will work hard too. He reminds them that they haven't had breakfast yet, and she replies that they should go get a few eggs on their way home, and she feels she can fry a bunch of sunny side up eggs. He comments that he will expect great things from her. At home, meanwhile, Momokin exclaims happily that Ren found Sumire and is almost back home, while Dahlia sniffs their presence with her nose and agrees to the claim, while Kiku tells them they have to think of other things. Sumire is seen walking happily with Ren through the hallway after returning from the store. While returning home from work, he talks to himself, saying he thinks he is beaten and always confident in his stamina, but he guesses he is not young anymore and time has passed. As he walks to the door, it opens, surprising him, and Sumire welcomes him home. Sumire helps him take off his jacket as she asks him if he has overtime again, and he replies that overtime is one of the basic building blocks of their company. She sympathizes with him, exclaims what a rat race it is, and tells him the human world is one of the toughest places to live in. She suddenly springs up, telling him it is her job to support him and he shouldn't hesitate to rely on her. She hugs him as they walk in the house together, while she asks him which would he like to do first, bath or dinner, making Ren reply he would go to the bathtub first. Ren explains that Sumire has grown in a lot of ways since the previous times when both household work and cooking were epic failures, but now she's improved and it is almost like she's a different person. He explains that all thanks to Kiku and the company, however, more than anything else it came from Sumire's incredible efforts. He also came to rely on Sumire without hesitation after being ground down every day by life. He had actually forgotten, and relying on your partner is a form of kindness. She eagerly asks Ren how the food was, and when he replies that it was tasty, she laughs playfully, while Ren exclaims that she hasn't grown out of this particular habit. She winks at him, asking if she can have her meal as well, which Ren agrees to. She massages his shoulders and tells him to relax as she will drink from there, while Ren continues in thought about how overjoyed he is that Sumire has grown, but something bothers him privately. He relaxes his body as she gulps down fluid from him and exclaims how yummy he is. He explains that before it felt like playing with an innocent girl, but now that she has grown into a woman it feels a bit shameful. Sumire starts to feel Ren's heartbeat pick up as she hugs him, but he replies nervously that it was nothing. Just then, Kiku and Dahlia come in, apologizing for coming later than they arranged, while Sumire welcomes them, but Mimochin exclaims that it went about as badly as expected, making Ren ask what happened. She explains that Sumire's former teacher has raised an alarm for Sumire and Ren's cohabitation interspecies test. Kiku intervenes to cut the story short. The three instructors have been ordered to withdraw. Ren is confused as Mimokin quotes Sumire's former teacher, saying, "My, what a meaningful test, with all three instructors constantly fretting over them. I must say I'm rather amazed you've managed to keep up such a shameful display for so long." This makes Ren nervous, and Dahlia says bad things to him, but she ends up telling them that they can now see the light at the end of the tunnel. Meimochin yells, exclaiming that if the interspecies cohabitation test can continue for a year, it would be considered a success, and they won't be able to do much except give advice during that time. Kikyu inputs that he has a point, and even if the council did not set a deadline, it will be withdrawn on their own will. On that note, today will be the last day, and they will act as her mentors, and she should be able to handle it from here onwards. While Sumire's eyes were wide in expectations, Sumire screams that she will definitely succeed and will prove all those who made fun of her wrong, and Kikyu concurs with her. Dahlia comments that her spirit is as huge as her body. She replies that she's a growing girl. Meimochin looks at Sumire and exclaims when Sumire grows taller than her, while Kikyu tells her she's growing, and it is like watching a human grow. Later that night, they all left, telling Sumire to take care and send daily reports. Sumire hugs Ren, exclaiming they haven't had time alone since they met. She smiles widely and tells Ren that they should both work hard, and he agrees with her. Ren explains that the cohabitation test from her onward is the real deal. In the vampire world, Helog is seen approaching two students. He announced to them that they have permission to leave the ground floor by sundown tomorrow, and there is no need for them to worry. Their duty is to carefully select potential human retainers, which they responded in the affirmative. He dismissed them as the bow, thanking him. When they were out of the school, one of the students with short hair exclaims happily about being finally free, while the other student with long hair agrees with her, but informs her that permission could still be revoked, so they need to keep their heads. This makes the short-haired student say she won't mess up and tell her partner that they should both head somewhere when the sun goes down tomorrow, which makes her partner inquire where they are going. The short-haired students evilly reply that they should go find the loser who got chased out of the academy and make her take a special test. Her partner pitied the girl who was chased and blamed it on the short-haired student for being the cause, to which she replied that she didn't do anything and the girl in question was weak. Her partner exclaimed how horrible the short-haired student was as proceeded into the human world. The short-haired student informs her partner to get ready, and she concurs in agreement. The following morning, Sumire hits a cooking pan and spoon together, telling Ren to wake up. Ren, who was still deep in sleep, requested more time as she kept calling him to get up. This makes her think of what to do, and she gets an idea. She peeks under his blankets and creeps underneath, wriggling on him as she greets him once again. He suddenly jumps out of the bed, cover trembling. He tells her to pity his poor heart, and she asks if she surprised him that much, but rather than surprise, he said she was not a kid anymore in a lot of different ways. She narrows her eyes and replies to Ren that he has been a little distant lately, making him fidget in deep sweat. She suddenly widens her eyes and yells, saying, could it be he now wants a human partner after all these times? She falls to the ground in tears, saying he wasn't loyal to her, and she's going to report it to Kikyu. He replies nervously that he wasn't disloyal to her, while she looks up to him wanting reaffirmation, which he assures her. Then she finally requests pets. He petted her, and they reconciled. After bidding each other goodbye as Ren left for work, Sumire proceeded to take a bath, brush her teeth, and sleep in the closet for a long while. When she wakes up, she cooks dinner while cleaning the house. When Ren got back home and she welcomed him, she told him she trusted him, but she studied human techniques in order to guard against any unloyalty, making Ren wonder why she is still on the topic. She explains that human men and women are attracted to each other for no reason and sometimes seek each other out even if they already have another partner, which forces Ren to ask where she picked it from. She brings out a love affair quagmire, which surprises Ren, and he asks if it is a manga. Sumire opens the book and reads through. If you want a partner and do not want to lose them, all you have to do is lay claim, known as calling dibs. She grabs Ren's hands and continuously licks them while telling him she has seen characters called dibs on stuff like this, but Ren is confused, wondering if she read the book properly, and tells her he doesn't think that is what the book means. She proceeds to tell him that according to the book, the most effective way to lick is mouth to mouth, which makes her proceed to lick Ren in his mouth, making him terrified. Ren suddenly flees from her while she runs after him and inquires why he is running. She finally catches up with him and attempts to lick his mouth once again, but is cut short by the two vampire students. Sumire is shocked as they attempt to come in through the portal. They entered successfully, and the short-haired student told her it's been a while since she went and disappeared, leaving them worried, and asked Sumire how she had been, while Sumire just stood with her eyes wide open in shock. Their appearance there was threatening to Sumire as she stared at them. Ren was surprised to see them, so he asked Sumire if she knew them, and she muttered Raspberry with her eyes still wide open in shock. She then explained that Raspberry was a bad girl and scared away tons of classmates, and she is all about succeeding at the expense of others. However, she causes disturbance in class and fits perfectly with Hello Few education style. Sumire further tells Ren with a sad face that she targeted her, which makes Ren pet her on the head in understanding, and asks of the second person beside Raspberry, and she answers that is the academy's top student and his name is Lotus Kun. He can do anything, to the extent of them calling him Helog's masterpiece. Lotus heard Sumire and said she was giving him too much credit, while Raspberry replied that their introduction was awfully different. Sumire, with a mean look, asked if there was something they badly needed that made them sneak out of the academy, but Raspberry laughed and told her they did nothing of such. She told Sumire they allowed them to pass, which made Sumire's eyes open wide in surprise, so she asks if they passed all the academy's exams, which Raspberry confirms true. Raspberry moves closer and comes head-to-head with Sumire, telling her she's happy all her years of hard work paid off and she only came to tell her all by herself so she doesn't get to hear it from someone else, but Sumire is stunned, making Raspberry ask what the matter was and if the cat got her tongue due to her surprised look. Raspberry tells Sumire to put that issue aside and faces Ren, exclaiming how a little strange it is because they are there in the vampire world, working themselves out and taking classes without a moment to catch their breaths, and they are drinking fluid bag rations, but here is Sumire, who has been out the whole time drinking fresh fluid. She exclaims that it isn't fair, making Sumire want to shed tears. She complains that should the runaway layer get the lion's share, but the rightful people who work hard get nothing. She narrows her eyes, saying of course no one would agree to that and people will definitely talk bad about you behind your back. Lotus cautions Raspberry that she's going a bit far, but she pushes him and keeps saying that no one would acknowledge that the test was a success. This statement makes Lotus stare at her awfully, while Sumire is moved to tears. She throws the fluid bag ration at Sumire's face, telling her to drink that from now on while she takes the human fluid, and she is sure the human would be most delighted to get his fluid drunk by a superior vampire. She asks if Sumire has a problem with that and tells her to hurry and get out of the way, but is shocked when Sumire stands up to her saying she has a problem with it. She throws the fluid bag ration back to Raspberry while she walks up to her bravely and faces her, saying Ren is her partner and tells her to say what she wants about her, but she should keep her hands off him. Raspberry is amazed and laughs at Sumire's comeback and tells her that she's grown some confidence since the last time they met. Raspberry hits Sumire on the face, shocking Lotus and Ren. Raspberry laughs and tells Sumire that she will have to take Ren from her by force. She is cut short by Sumire, who rushes at her. They pushed each other toward the glass, but were luckily saved by Lotus. They fought in midair and landed on the roof of a building. Raspberry draws her sword from the portal and asks Sumire if she remembers the self-defense class they took together, as this scene was supposed to take her back. She exclaims how beating Sumire was so much fun as she swings her sword at her, but Sumire stands guard. She holds her wooden mop stick ready to fight back and hits back at Raspberry that she is not the same as she was back then. They both stare at themselves with wide, mean eyes. Raspberry gives Sumire a spin kick. She exhales from the bruises she got from there, while Raspberry smiles, as she is always easy. She kicks Sumire in the stomach, making growls in pain. Meanwhile, Lotus carries Ren and flies to the fight scene, but as Ren sees them, he exclaims how bad things are going and that they should be stopped. Lotus replies to him that it is not safe to go where they are and that they should keep an eye on things from here. He tells Ren that they should be allowed to do as they please because neither of them seems inclined to stop anytime soon, as he hands Ren his shoes, which leaves Ren to wonder whose side Lotus is on. The fight still continues as Raspberry pounces on Sumire, who is totally unable to defend herself, while Raspberry laughs, telling her it is all over as she jumps on her. Sumire's stick breaks and she is left totally defenseless, while Raspberry pushes her, making her crash on the roof's ground. She then sits forcefully on Sumire's stomach, making her cough out fluid. She then tells her that this is all because she puts on air and defies her, so she will have to punish Sumire. She grabs Sumire by the shirt, exclaiming how much the fluid she stored up from Ren for nourishment, and decides to take it from her. She bites into Sumire's skin, drinking all the nourishment from her, making her look skinny as she screams in pain. Ren asks Lotus what she is doing, and Lotus answers him saying Raspberry is drinking all the nourishment Sumire stored up from drinking his fluid, while Sumire is getting leaner as she wallows in pain. Lotus informs Ren that if all the nourishment were drunk up by Raspberry, Sumire would be no more, which is also an action forbidden, and the situation is getting worse. Ren screams at Lotus to please take him over there, as he doesn't care how much of his fluid is drained. Lotus doesn't answer Ren and asks him what is so special about Sumire that made him keep his life on the line for her to live, and they are both different from one another like cat and mouse. Even in the vampire world, no one is incorrect if she is referred to as a dropout failure. Ren frowns at him, telling him none of that matters because they have had their good days and bad days, and it might sound cliche, but that is how bonds are formed. Lotus smiles and exclaims how splendid it was. He tells Ren that was what he came to hear him say. He then tells Ren that he will ensure Sumire does not die, so they should continue to watch, leaving Ren with no choice but to comply. While Sumire and Raspberry continue their fight, Lotus tells Ren that this is an important fight for Sumire. While Sumire is on the ground almost at the end point, she mutters Ren's name and flashes back to their memories. She begs him to stay with him and pets her, and when he agrees they can live together, She remembers his laugh on the walk together and his smiles while muttering his name. Raspberry, with a wide smile on her face, tells Sumire that Ren's fluid will be all hers. Full of rage, Sumire kicks and pierces through Raspberry's stomach, coughing out fluid, shocking Ren. Lotus announces that Raspberry let her guard down. Sumire twists Raspberry and pins her to the ground as she pounces on her and yells that she will never give Ren to one like her. Sumire continuously punches Raspberry, turning the battle around. She then opens up her mouth, ready to drink Raspberry's fluid. Sumire bends her neck as she says bad things to her, calling her bad things. But a carefree Sumire bites and drinks Raspberry, who still calls her a dropout trash, telling Sumire to let her go. Sumire paid deaf ears and kept on biting Raspberry. Ren is still in shock, while Lotus smiles and says they should call it a night. Lotus comes into the scene while Raspberry wallows in pain. Raspberry makes her bats bring her sword while screaming how dare Sumire do that to her, telling her she would pay for it. She screams to beat Sumire while her bats come closer with her sword. As Sumire is about to be hit by the sword, she is saved by Lotus, who stops the sword, telling them that's enough and tells Sumire to let Raspberry off with these many injuries. Ren runs towards Sumire asking if she's okay while she calls out to him. A sword was pointed at Lotus as someone called out to him. It was no other person than Raspberry, who asked him why he stopped her sword and asked him if he wanted to go up too. Ren tries to hold Sumire back from fighting, and she is also trying to defend him by telling him to get back to her. Lotus announces that they will need to end their fun here or the nice lady in hiding will send their head flying. He says this as he points while Raspberry turns to see. The lady in hiding behind a tank exclaims, asking if he really noticed her. She comes out of hiding and beholds it as Dahlia, as she smiles and praises Lotus for a good job because she erased her presence too, while Sumire calls out to her. Raspberry's eyes grow wide as she discovers Dahlia has the crow and thinks of her being the lumberjack. Raspberry wonders why Dahlia was there and also that she could have been beaten up for real if she messed up. Lotus apologizes for the commotions and tells Dahlia that Sumire and Raspberry got a little heated after seeing each other again after so long, while Sumire just stares nervously. Dahlia thinks about it for a moment, then finally agrees as a child. Ren's fighting and taps Raspberry on the head with her sword, telling her she got pep, leaving Raspberry speechless. Dahlia leans closer to Raspberry, smiling widely, and tells her there is not going to be a next time. Raspberry concurs, calling Dahlia bad news in her thoughts. Raspberry announces their dismissal, and Lotus agrees with her as they proceed to the portal, but Lotus suddenly stops midway and calls out to Sumire and wishes her good luck on the interspecies cohabitation test. He then tells her people to say all kinds of things about the test, but he thinks it is a good test, which leaves Sumire looking confused. She agrees with him as she thinks of that being the first time a classmate has ever encouraged her. Lotus bids her goodbye as he departs through the portal with Raspberry. Always smiling, Dahlia asks Sumire if she made a new friend, which confuses Sumire about the question. Dahlia pats Sumire on the head and tells her to keep up the good work, but try not to cause a noise as she can't protect her every time, making Sumire apologize. Dahlia flies in thin air as she exclaims how busy she is, as she is in charge of keeping the peace, which isn't always all fun. Ren hears this and imagines that being her job and concludes within himself that it doesn't fit her. Sumire exclaims happily about showing Raspberry a thing or two and tells Ren she's going to sleep like a log tonight, which Ren totally agrees with her. He then wraps her with his jacket, telling her to cover up with that first as he can't keep his eyes from wandering. Sumire turns and informs Ren there are commotions coming from below, which he turns to look. They see the cops' car below and throngs of people below. They became afraid, knowing fully well that someone called in the cops. They decide to get out of there as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Lotus thanks goodness Dahlia let Raspberry go as he introduces her, as the patchwork Dahlia makes Raspberry realize, and she thanks her goodness Lotus noticed her, if not she would be no more. Raspberry still insists on slaughtering Sumire after all this, as she further promises to make her realize nice and slow and then tear her head off, but exclaims that she first needs to heal the wound she incurred. She tries to grab her fluid pack from the portal, but can't find it, making her wonder where she could have left it. She then tries to remember, but meanwhile, at Ren's house, Sumire finds Raspberry's fluid pack and slurps it all down as she exclaims how good she feels. She suddenly belches and exclaims that it is gross as she complains of her taste buds being spoiled by Ren's fluid, and now she has a body that can't be satisfied by fluid packs. She hugs Ren, telling him to take responsibility, which he does, instantly calling it his fault. Meanwhile, Raspberry tries to take Lotus's fluid pack, but he refuses to give her, and she blames him for leaving her fluid pack behind, which he considers a wild allegation. Raspberry and Lotus sat on the roof and discussed how to get a retainer. Okay, then let's go and pick our retainer, Raspberry said, and she imagined mocking Sumire with her high-spec retainer. while she said she would be the one to pick the cream of the crop and go rub that stinks the nose in it, which Lotus tells her to give up trying to make Sumire realize. She responds that she has a rotten personality, which Lotus confirms to be true. Raspberry tells Lotus that if humans have one thing going on for them, it is numbers. With this, how would they be able to pick their own retainer? She glances and asks Lotus how would he go about picking retainers, wanting to see what he would do. He smiles at her and replies, indeed. He then points at a narrow road and tells Raspberry that not too many humans pass through, which Raspberry also sees and agrees with him. Lotus tells her they should go through the road and the first human they find on this road will be their retainers. Raspberry looked at him in shock and told him he needed a doctor to check his head, to which Lotus replied and said that was a horrible thing to say. She questions him why he is going through all the backbreaking effort to get here and then leave it to luck at the most crucial point, and if their teacher Halal was here he would cry, which makes him reply that's what makes it fun. He explains that he found doing as he was told, studying hard and getting good grades is quite a bore, and surely it will be fine if they had a bit of fun. Lotus tells her that for what it's worth he thinks she's better off leaving this to chance, and she asks him why that is. He sees Sumire's story as an example, telling her she wants to be on equal feet with Sumire, who also got her partner through luck. Her eyes glowed hearing that she then agreed to do it while showing her sharp teeth. Raspberry exclaimed, teaching Sumire a lesson on how much of a difference there is between them. They both get down to the road and Raspberry points at the road, telling Lotus that they will go straight down this road. If he is a male, he is hers, and if she is a female, she will be his retainer. Lotus agrees with her, but she says that she doesn't want to hear any whining later about him having regrets. They left in search of a retainer as the night deepened. From a tall building, a voice is heard apologizing for the mess and trying to confirm if the other party is really a vampire. The voice says that it doesn't entertain guests and also tries to inquire if the fellow is really a vampire or not. A man is seen asking the questions. He points at his arm, asking if the vampire could drink fluid from around there. His name is Amari, and he tells the vampire to be gentle with him. Raspberry was the said vampire, and she looked at him in regret. She proceeds to bite and drink his fluid while thinking her pride won't allow her to go back as Amari groans from pain, and she tells him to stop making weird noises. Raspberry talks to herself that this is a living, breathing human whose fluid is so delicious that fluid pack ration can't even compare, and she could put up with this pairing as long as she could continue to drink it. He comments romantically that her teeth are so smooth and her lips are so soft while she belches in satisfaction. He stares at her full of love as he sweats nervously and asks if vampires do wear some indecent outfit, while she sits comfortably and replies that she made the dress herself, which is said to have captivated the hearts of many men, and it is also based on a bunny girl motif. She explains that for vampires, the easier the outfit can draw on humans, the better. He stares at her waist side and comments, "Is a marvelous choice. Those body lines highlighting those proportions are the best combination, and he can feel the sense of divinity from it." She replies to him, calling him a lucky man, saying there are no vampires in existence as captivating as she is. Amari happily exclaims of certainly getting to see something nice, and as a matter of fact, he has always dreamed of going to a bunny girl and seeing some bunny girls up and close and personal. However, he never had either the friends to accompany him there or the money to fund such an expedition, so in all honesty, he had all but given up on this dream of him, and now it's clear that the attractive power of the rear end of the bunny girl saved from the depth of the internet are worlds apart from the same of a bunny girl. A bored Raspberry exclaims him having such long lines. Amari agrees with her while he bends down in search of something in his wardrobe, saying if she's getting results with the bunny girl suit, then he has that. He brought out a school swimsuit, handing it over to her while she just stared at him surprised. He kneels down, telling her the image of the girls he saw at the school pool wearing their swimsuits is pictured into his mind, and he head to bows to her, telling her he would like to see the sight again. Close enough that he could reach out and touch the skin exposed wouldn't be much different from what she's wearing now. She just stares at him continuously while he turns himself upside down, begging her as this is his wish for a lifetime. She dips her hand in the portal while he looks in confusion and brings out a knife, making him confused. She opens it and he exclaims that it is so ornately decorated and calls it a bejeweled sword. He receives the sword from her happily and exclaims that he has never laid eyes on anything like this before and asks if this proof of their covenant, finally saying thank you to her. Raspberry stares at him with mean eyes and finally speaks out, saying he is an abnormal creature and he sickens her. She tells him to use that sword to hit himself and end his miserable self, making him ask if it was for beating himself, but she cuts him short by hitting on his head while he begs her and tells her if she wears it, he will lick her boot until they shine. She tells him to get away while he screams in pain from her legs on his head. He tells her it feels good while she sighs. Nights later, Kikyu visits Ren's house through the portal and greets Sumire and Ren. She tells them she is performing a health check and asks if they are both right, which they respond affirmatively. She told them meddling in their businesses is not ideal, and she'd be crossed by the higher-ups, but a little gossip will do. She tells them she heard through the grapevine that Raspberry has gotten herself a retainer close to them. Sumire was shocked and tried to reconfirm when she heard this. She becomes angry and says she is sure Raspberry is trying to get inside her skin, and one very day she will barge in uninvited. Ren is bothered about the neighborhood. If they find out who they are one way or the other, they will have to move away, while Sumire cuts in telling him not to worry as she flashes a knife, telling him the next time she sees Raspberry she will remove her head without failing, while Ren remarks how alarming it is. She brings out a cleaver and meat mallet, saying she felt there was going to be a fight, so she prepared herself for it, while Ren exclaims that she's going all out. Sumire exclaims that Raspberry should bring it on wherever she is, while Kikyu stands there wondering if they will be alright and recalls the other student. Lotus is seen in a big dining room and exclaims that the already prepared food should do it. He walks into the portal with the food and comes out to a room and checks, but the room looks empty. He checked and found someone as he exclaimed that was where the person was hiding. He told the person they must be hungry and he brought food. He calls the person his retainer as her shadow appears, peeking at him. It was a dirty young girl with scattered hair whose stomach was growling. She looks at him hungrily with her wide eyes. She tells him she doesn't have any money, while Lotus smiles, telling her there's no need to pay. She sits as she stares at the food ready to dive in. She immediately chomps on it and is wowed by the delicacy. Lotus smiles, staring at her as she munches the food. He apologized for taking her out of her house like that because there was no electricity and gas at her apartment as they were cut off, which was also unsanitary, and he promised to do something about it the next day, so she should stay in the hotel for today. He stares at her as she drinks from the cup. Her name is Kirishima Rosario and she's 9 years old. Her mother, who she lives alone, left home for weeks and hasn't returned, and with no one to rely on, she was living under a vending machine where Lotus found her. He thinks her mother might suddenly return, and there might be some risks that people around might get suspicious of him, but he has already decided she will be his retainer. She talks to her doll while he announces that he prepared a bath for her and also told her he would do her laundry, so she should put her clothes in the basket. He dries her hair after bathing and tells her she looks more beautiful as she sits on the bed. He tells her she better hurry to bed as she is going to attend school the next day as he prepares her bed. He feels she is still wary of him, so he will have to break through that step by step. As she went to bed, she called out to him and told him if it was not too much trouble, she might want breakfast too, which made him smile and approve her request. She exclaims happily and informs her to turn off the lights as he bids her goodnight. Raspberry visits Lotus through the portal and Lotus is surprised to see her. They went to the roof and she asked how he was, to which he replied that he was still taking things one step at a time. She told him that taking a small child is not profitable because you can't drink her fluid until the next 6 years due to the fact that she is still a child. She continues that the cost of performance is tragic and she won't make any form of retainer for him, while he just smiles speechless. Raspberry makes fun of him, telling him how sorry she is for him and he should go down on his knees and beg for her to give him a do-over. He asks her if she has heard of home gardening, which she replies is when humans grow vegetables for fun, which she approves to be correct. He explains that it is more efficient than just buying it from a nearby store, but they say the time and effort spent growing allows you to experience the new level of deliciousness. He tells her it's the same as human fluid and she might become a big deal beyond their expectations, leaving her speechless with her wide stare. He smiles, saying there is something special about her and he is beginning to enjoy it, while Raspberry replies that he is so cheery, which is totally unlike him and it is gross. She pats his back, bidding him the best of luck, which he responds by bidding her the same. Meanwhile, Rosario sleeps peacefully, dreaming of a real cake. The following morning, Kirishima had pancakes for breakfast and she exclaimed it was a real-life pancake. Lotus helped comb her hair and wore her clean clothes, which she perceived and thought of them smelling nice as it had been so long since she wore clean clothes. He told her with her hair packed up she could see her pretty self. Lotus asks her to give him her toy so he can hold onto it for her, but she ignores him and puts the doll in her school bag while he just smiles at her. In her school, one of her mates asks her if she took a bath before coming and she looks sad. Others laugh at her, but she smiles to herself. During lunch, food is being tossed and thrown at her. They say bad things to her, and she is moved to tears. At Rosario's home, she exclaims how sparkling the apartment is, while he replies that he was able to finish cleaning it in time. He sees her looking around and asks if she is looking for something. She confirms she is looking for her bear Hana-chan's house, which she put there. He brings out a dollhouse and asks if that was it, which she confirms to be her doll's house and tells him she made it at school during craft time. He tells him it seemed rather important to stash it away like that, so he kept it aside. He commends it to be wonderful as he hands it to her while she requests a bath and kitchen for it too. He tells her to make use of the boxes he found while cleaning the apartment, and she is wowed by the sight. Raspberry peeks at Lotus through the portal, who is helping Rosario build her doll's house. They meet on the rooftop and she tells him how disappointed she is. She says Lotus, who was the very picture of excellence at the academy, is reduced to playing house with a kid, while Lotus smiles at her speechless. As Kirishima walks into the classroom, her classmates laugh at her while she goes to take her seat at the back of the class. Lotus welcomes her from school and asks if she had fun, which she denies, and he asks if something happened. She looks down, saying everyone makes fun of her, saying she stinks. He hugs her, assuring her that she doesn't stink, while she responds that she has taken her bath lately, and they have been saying so ever before she met him. He told her they should go get a better soap that will make her smell nice, which she will like. As they walked to the store, he told her they should get some nice smelling things like shampoo and body wash and also some nice dresses. They got to the store and did their shopping. After sports activities in school, she visits the library and reads a book about Monsters Encyclopedia. At home, she asks him if he does drink fluid, which he confirms and inquires that she knows a lot. She stretches her hand to him and asks him if he is going to drink her fluid, making him thank her and tell her she is still a child and he will have some when she gets a little bigger. She asks how big she needs to be, and he replies that when she is 16 years old, she exclaims that it is still 7 years away and that if he can just drink a small amount of her fluid, she would be a bit fine. He tells her the thought alone makes him more than happy while she covers her hands up as he declines. Lotus and Raspberry meet on the roof and she tells him it would be fine if he just had a taste and about once a month wouldn't hurt her, but Lotus bluntly refuses and tells her he has to savor the time it takes to become delicious, which makes her reply that he is the perfect picture of disciple. He went back into the house to meet her to teach her how to file her nails and cut them. In school during lunch, one of her classmates wants to share his carrot and mushrooms with her, but she refuses, telling him she doesn't need it and thanks him. The rest of her classmates were surprised at her new behavior. As she sits alone, they gossip about her strange attitude and how she feels like she is more adult or maybe pretty. They continue gossiping about her smelling different while she thinks of Lotus and how she feels comfortable with him. She wants to be useful to him, but she is still a child and she can't do anything. She exclaims that she can't wait until she is an adult and she can't wait for Lotus to eat her. She sits calmly while her classmates peek at her from the entrance while she continues in her thoughts. Amari announces his arrival back home. Raspberry, who is dying of fluid, yells at him for coming late and that she is in need of her daily dosage of human fluid. Amari is in tears as he complains he doesn't want to go to work again. He rolls on the floor like a kid and screams about quitting, and he just wants to sit at home and watch his anime backlog and get a microtransaction in his game until all his savings are used up. She stares at him furiously and walks up to him asking what the problem is. He tells her to listen as he cries, explaining to her that his boss and a client are giving him serious issues and no one is helping him out, so he wants to quit the job. Raspberry tells him that he shouldn't be a baby and man up. Definitely, it is his fault, that is why he is to be blamed. She tells him no matter what, one must survive anything in this life and that crying and whining won't solve anything, so he should just get it together and put in more effort. She tells him that there are many paths to victory because she has no use for losers. He cries profusely, rolling on the floor as he begs her not to leave him in his condition. She should hug him because he can't add more effort to work. Raspberry had no other option than to help him out. She went in search of something, she found it, and told him he had to put more effort for a month, and if he could do that. She showed him the school swimsuit he had given her previously and told him she would wear it for him as his reward. He immediately gathered courage, and out of excitement, he said he would give them hell while she exclaimed that it was easy. He tells her in the morning he will head to work and set all things in place. She thinks that if getting him to be motivated is just by wearing a dress for him, then it is no big deal. She asked him for her daily dose of fluid, which he gave her. She asked him if he had dinner already, and he told her no because he was stressed and was not really hungry, so he would be fine not eating, but she insisted that he needed to eat properly in order to replace the fluid taken from him, if not he won't last long. She then asks that if he is no more, where will she get her fluid from? She opens his fridge, which is empty, as she calls his attention to it, while he replies that all that is there is soda and soy sauce. Raspberry thinks that motivating him will help her get more delicious fluid from him, and if she properly manages him, it might become something truly. She announces that from then on, she will cook him dinner, so they should go get some groceries. She dresses cutely as they walk to the store. As they walk, she asks why he has been acting different for a while, to which he responds that he is walking down the street with a gorgeous woman by his side. He tells her that he is feeling like a superstar, making her realize and reply that they are standing out, so he should do it like this. They go to the neighboring supermarket and she tells him to get what they need at the store and go home. She tells him he is an unhealthy person, so he should eat a lot of meat because if he grows larger, his amount of fluid will grow too, but he declines, saying it is not that he doesn't like meat, but he doesn't want that much. She gives him a condition that if he puts on 5 kilos, she will bathe him in the swimsuit. This made him suddenly energetic, wanting to eat more meat, while Raspberry exclaims of getting a hang of how to handle him. As she shops, she says she is impressed by how humans have this system that gives them easy access to food and realizes this is why they prosper so much. Someone bumps into her and apologizes as she asks the person why they don't watch where they go, only to realize it was Sumire. They stare at each other and ask each other what they are doing there. Ren catches up to Sumire and asks why Raspberry is there while Amari notices something. He compares the size of Sumire's confidence to that of Raspberry, and he exclaims that it can cause inflation as he calls it a monster marmalade battle, while Sumire and Raspberry stare at themselves heatedly. Amari goes in between them, introduces himself to Sumire, and asks her if he can slide in between them. Ren stands there speechless as he stares at both of them, about to cause a scene in the supermarket, and wonders what the hell is going on. A few years ago in the vampire world, Lotus is seen walking alone through the hallway of the academy when Raspberry meets him and what he is up to. He tells her that he just borrowed human film from the reference room, and she replies that he finds so much joy studying culture, which will not come out in the test, and here she is cramming like crazy. She tells him it's perfect timing as she's about to take a break, so she will keep him company. While seeing the movie, when it got to the rifle part, she identified it as a rifle and said they got a taste of it in class the other day, and she likes the 5.56mm rounds. They punch right through you, so they are easy to regenerate from. They kept on watching the movie. She licks her finger there before commenting on what would he gain from rescuing her because she doesn't have anything to offer him in skills. He could find another girl, but Lotus disagrees and explains to her that she is seen as the only one who has gotten close to his wounded heart. Without her, his heart would crumble away to pieces. Raspberry stares at him in disbelief and asks if they are talking philosophy, but he denies it. He tells her he is aware that vampires only gain the trust of humans for their personal use, and it is also important to understand the heart of humans. She stares at him and comments that he is a very smart person, but sometimes he says the most messed up stuff. They continue seeing the movie, and the movie Raspberry comments when they start sharing the love that it is so sticky, while Lotus replies that their urge to produce is stronger than vampires. Kirishima screams at Lotus because he is lost in thought, bringing him back to reality. He asks what the matter is, and she comments that he is really good at cooking. He thanks her for liking his cooking, while she makes a request that he teach her how to cook, as it would be nice if she could cook. He grins and accepts her request, telling her she is very hardworking. She hops happily, so he announces that they will cook the dinner for the next day together. So they should go to the store to get ingredients for the food. As they walk to the store, Lotus thinks about suspecting that he is getting connected to Rosario as they spend time together, and his desire to protect her is increasing, so he discovers that this is how it is with Sumire and Ren, and this is not, but it isn't valuable by the Academy's educator, who said allowing your retainer into your heart can lead to damage. He questions if there are disadvantages that outweigh the advantages of fostering such a bond. He concludes that finding it out is all part of the fun. He announces their arrival at the store and asks what she wants to cook, to which she tells him hamburger steak. He smiles, telling her it sounds good, and they will need to head to the meat aisle first. Lotus walks in on Raspberry, and Sumire faces them heatedly. He smiles and asks what they are doing, catching them by surprise. He asked them if they were going to cause trouble in the presence of humans, and Raspberry denied that they just ran into each other. Amari is knocked out with multiple boils on his head after being whacked by Raspberry, while Ren confirms they ran into each other and tells them to try and get things through this peacefully, which Sumire angrily replies that would be the best thing to do. Lotus then tells them to go for the shopping that they came for, but unfortunately, again they picked up the same meat pack. They both sighed as they dragged the meat pack with each other. Lotus saw them argue with each other over the meat pack and asked if they were doing this on purpose. Someone noticed them and asked if they were fighting in the store, while Lotus brought an idea that they settle it another way, which made them turn to him. He takes them all to the Vampires Academy and suggests a cook-off. At the Academy's cooking laboratory, he tells them the theme is a hamburger steak and Rosario will be the impartial referee, and she asks if she is good enough. Both Sumire and Raspberry agree to the challenge, while Lotus whispers to Rosario that they should see if they can learn one or two from them, which she agrees to. Amari wakes up asking where they are, while Ren answers that where they are doesn't seem life-threatening, but the competition isn't going to end smoothly as both Sumire and Raspberry prepare for battle. Lotus tells them the hamburger steak cook-off is about to begin, and whoever satisfies the judge Rosario will be declared the winner, while Raspberry says she is going to say bad things to Sumire and show everyone how bad she is, which makes Sumire replies for saying a woman like her has never cooked, not even outside the classroom. They both laugh at each other, and Sumire warned to make a hamburger out of Raspberry, while Lotus asked if they were actually getting along. He hit the bell, telling them to start. Raspberry grabs her ingredients as she warns them to crush Sumire, making Ren shocked and commenting she is cooking like a professional. She asks Amari if that's how she cooks, but he replies that he hasn't had the chance to have her cook for him yet, which Ren apologizes for. One of Raspberry's specialties is cooking, and she is very good at it, and her skills are so great that she matches Lotus. Sumire stares at Raspberry and says she has improved and is better than ever. Sumire recalls the kind of hell Raspberry put her through and remembers her being in trouble like yesterday. She makes up her mind to win the cooking competition no matter what and says bad things to her in front of everyone. She looks determined. Kirishima salivates and talks to her doll about what kind of hamburger the two ladies are going to make as she can't wait. Sumire mixes the steaks. When she looks at Raspberry, which is almost done, she feels pain but focuses back on doing her best. Raspberry slams the hamburger steak in front of Rosario, announcing that she's done. Rosario sees the steak and says it looks delicious. Amari and Ren are amazed at the level of perfection the steak came out with, and Amari said it looks like what they sell at the restaurant. Raspberry pushes some of the steak into Rosario's mouth, telling her to eat up. When Rosario catches her breath, she comments saying it melted away in her mouth, the meat and the sauce combined together making it yummy. Raspberry proudly exclaims that it is yummy, while nervous Ren thinks it will be hard for Sumire to beat. Sumire apologizes for keeping them waiting while Raspberry asks if she is really done. She tells her this is the best way to make fun of the total garbage Sumire worked hard to make only for, or to look back and is surprised. Sumire cooked the steak in a grand style and said she was proud of it. Ren is shocked and exclaims that she cooked a kid's meal. Sumire proceeds to add a flag with a doll face on the food, announcing the food comes with a flag, while Raspberry thinks of what purpose the flag serves in the food. Sumire recalls and explains she used a children's menu reference she saw at the restaurant when she and Ren went there in order to study human society, and Ren confirms her claim to be true. Sumire finally adds that her meal comes with her own handmade toy, while Ren replies that her level of reproducibility is really something. Raspberry comments that it is like a curveball that is covered with patches of low quality. When Rosario sees the hamburger, her eyes widen as she remembers when she was in her first grade, when her mother was so happy and she took her to a restaurant to eat hamburger steak. She quickly ate it all up because it was delicious, which was the first and the last time she ate a hamburger at a restaurant, and this hamburger Sumire made looks just like that. She prepares to taste the steak, and when she takes a bite, she thinks of it being tough, but the more she chews, the yummier it gets, and it is the same flavor from her memory. She points at Sumire's steak, saying she likes her hamburger steak best. Sumire was overjoyed as she jumped in excitement, while Raspberry was shocked and became angry. Lotus stares in disbelief while he thinks that Raspberry outclassed Sumire every step away in terms of sheer ability, but Sumire was focused on who was going to eat the food, which made her prevail, although a large part of it might have been dumb luck. Raspberry screams at Rosario, asking what part of Sumire's steak was any good, and there isn't a single shred of artistry in the whole thing. Unknown to them, Helog was watching everything above the building. He just stared speechless at them unnoticed. Raspberry is very furious at how she lost to Sumire. She exclaims that she will not be a part of the farce anymore, and she storms out angrily. Rosario feels sad that Raspberry left, while Lotus calms her that everything is alright. Sumire smiles and asks if she is finally the winner, to which Ren replies that it was a naturally enticing low-angle shot. Raspberry exclaimed what the hell that was as she felt very terrible, not noticing Lotus's presence behind her. Lotus thinks of Raspberry being bent out of shape, and he will have to keep her company until she is feeling better. He stops midway and looks back when he hears Amari call out to Rosario. Amari points at Raspberry's steak, telling Rosario he is feeling hungry and asks if he can have Raspberry's hamburger steak, which he gives him the go-ahead to take as she just ate her full. Amari takes the steak and dashes past Lotus to meet Raspberry where she is. He tells an irritated Raspberry he got the hamburger steak she made, while she replies that he should throw it away because it is worthless. He ignores her and sits beside her eating the steak, exclaiming it is yummy, while she angrily asks if he can hear her at all. He tells her that if he was the judge, she would have won for sure, while she replies that he is her retainer, which would hardly be fair. Raspberry is still angry, but she admits that the contest was fair and Sumire had the chance of winning a single grain of sand, but still went ahead and pulled it off, which is what really infuriates her. Amari tells her that in life she can't win them all, making her scream at him that she doesn't want his platitude. She explains to him that the vampire world is very quick to separate those with ability from those without ability, and the losers are sent to the dust box. She explains that only the survivors will be allowed to pass their genes and leave proof of their existence to later generations. She tells him that is why vampires of recent years are all accomplished and beautiful men and women, while Amari thinks she is talking about herself. She explains that she is not a natural super genius like Lotus is, and in other to be the best, she had to work herself to the bone, and so even if they were just competing for fun, she can never come second to some runaway loser, and she has to prove that all her efforts were not in vain and claim victory. Amari thinks for some moments and finally tells Raspberry that how Sumire did it might have been different, but he thinks she worked hard to beat her, making Raspberry's eyes widen in realization as she remembers the time she said bad things to Sumire, telling her a worthless good-for-nothing like her is destined for the dust box, and if she doesn't want to end up there, she should show herself in front of a human and beg them to put her to good use, which Sumire answers her bitterly to do as she has said. Raspberry kicks her again, asking her where her pride as a vampire is, telling her to pull it off if she can. She comes out of her thoughts and says she will let Sumire have this victory just today, but she will never lose again. Lotus watches Raspberry and Amari from a distance, and he finally smiles, but he is called out to by his teacher, Helog. Lotus asks his teacher what he owes the pleasure, to which his teacher asks if he has forgotten the basic rules of not allowing humans into their hearts. He condemns Lotus for selecting a baffling retainer and tells him not to give her any special training and even allow her to go blithely about her daily life. Rosario hears this but doesn't understand any of it. Helog tells Lotus that no matter the result he hopes to gain, his recent action is a step too far. He tells Lotus he has witnessed those who open their hearts to humans become twisted and insane. He finally tells him not to allow himself to become complacent, and that he should also tell Raspberry the same, which Lotus agrees respectfully. Rosario asks Lotus what is happening, but he replies that it is nothing for her to worry about while Sumire serves Ren mountain piles of hamburger steaks as Lotus and Rosario prepare to go home. The following day, Rosario calls Lotus. He answers asking what she wants, but she looks sad, fidgets, and stammers. She finally tells him it is nothing and she is off to school, while he tells her to have a nice day. After she leaves, he notices the garbage can. He looks in the trash, noticing the unusual paper there, and takes it out. He checks it out. He discovers it is a parent-teacher conference held after 1:50 p.m. She looks outside to the shining sun through the curtains as he stands in the room. Lotus is seen teaching Rosario a circle problem whose centers are lined up together. As he explains further about how to solve the problem, she cuts him short, telling him the final answer to the summation, which he approves to be correct, and claps for her, telling her she is now caught up with all her classes. She suddenly looks sad, calls out to Lotus, and asks him to clear her doubt if truly vampires can't go out during the day, which he confirms, saying they absolutely cannot go out on sunny days. He further explains, citing an example of a human walking through a flaming house while it burned down, which makes her realize how it is. He inquired why she asked the question, but she pushed it off, saying she was just wondering. He comes back to reality, staring at the letter, realizing she asked because of the parent and teacher's day. He looks out, wondering that if he was to go, he would be risking his life moving under the ray of the sun, and he will also get noticed by many people. He smiles, thinking this isn't something a vampire like him can participate in. He places the letter back in the trash and thinks of baking her something nice like warm cookies and giving her a warm greeting when she gets home. He shuts the door behind him and decides to go to bed. He meets with Raspberry, who asks him to help her move some things the following day, which he agrees. He wears his night clothes and lays down on the bed. He looks at the time and recalls Rosario's sad face before she left for school, and it troubles him as he couldn't sleep. Meanwhile, at Rosario's school, she sits lonely as people chat about all sorts of things. She looks sad and thinks of not liking parent-teacher day as her mom never attended for once. She looks at the parents and thinks of the students being nervous having their parents watch them, which wasn't the same for her. As she bows her head on the table unhappily, someone yells, asking whose dad that is. As she looks unhappy, they chatter about the man being too young for a dad and ask if he is a foreigner or if he is related to Kirishima, also known as Rosario. She looked up with a sad face as they chattered that her mom was a foreigner, so maybe one of her relatives came, making her think of not knowing any of her relatives and that they are just saying whatever comes into their heads. Loris eventually shows up in front of Rosario's class with other parents. She was surprised to see him when the teacher announced the class was starting, telling them she knew they were excited their parents were here to visit, but they should all focus. Rosario becomes freaked out, wondering why Lotus is here, and recalls not telling him about it. She eventually smiles widely while Lotus smiles back at her, but deep down within him, he doesn't feel good. He feels wretched, like his body is going to crumble away. He recalls being able to get here by avoiding direct sunlight, but the reflected light still drains his stamina, and he is continuously regenerating using the fluid bag he got ready beforehand, but he really can't keep up. People whisper about him as he decides not to let the pain show and blend in with the humans. Unfortunately for him, the curtains of the school window open, making rays of sunshine into the classroom, attracting him and giving him bruises. He sweats profusely as he tries to hide his bruises, while Rosario becomes nervous too, like other students. The teacher draws the problem of circles on the board, asking who can solve it. Rosario looks at it and recalls it to be the exact problem Lotus taught her how to do. Every other student raises their hand, showing that they could solve the problem except Rosario. She looks at them unhappy that they want to show their parents what they can do. She gradually lifts her hands too, deciding to also show Lotus what she can do. She raises her hands too in order to attempt the question, making Lotus, who is in pain, look in her direction. He then smiles at Rosario amidst his pains. After the school bell rings, Lotus is nowhere to be found. Someone asks where Rosario's relative went, while another person asks if they can perceive something burning. Raspberry wakes up from her sleep while Lotus apologizes for waking her, making her surprised to see him. She looks at him with disbelief. Lotus is in very bad shape as he tells her his eyes are burned out so he can't see where he is going, and asks if she has an extra fluid bag at hand. She rushes to feed him fluid as she says bad things to him, asking what he is doing. She gave all the fluid in the bag, but it was not close to being enough. She tells him to wait and not move as she rushes inside to get more fluid. Lotus, in his dying state, recalls the words of Helog, saying he has witnessed the sight of those who open their hearts to humans becoming twisted and insane. He narrows his eyes weakly, wondering when the next parents and teacher day is, while Rosario walks home happily. After consuming multiple fluid bags, Lotus thanks Raspberry for helping him out while she replies that he is welcome, but he owes her for this. He then asks her where she got all those bags, from which she replies that she got them off some Kuhai and Lotus, and concludes on going to apologizing to them. She stretches his cheeks, telling him how amazing it is as there is no healing from burns like that, and he also looks like their sensei Helog. She tells him a true ancestor returned like him is nothing to sneeze at, making him smile and reply that he feels his lifespan has been shortened. It is explained that the original vampire is said to have 3 tails, black conjunctiva, and other special features, and these traits appear sporadically in modern vampires. However, when they appear together, the one who possesses them is called the Ancestor returned. Raspberry sits concerned and tells Lotus that she doesn't know what happened, but if there is something bothering him, he can talk to her while he looks away from her, and tells her maybe next time. She becomes furious and screams at him, telling him this is the part where he spills out. But he tells her he has to make snacks for Rosario, while she responds that she will help him and he should talk to her, and they argue continuously. At Ren's house, someone asks for permission to enter, which the Sumire, who was cooking, is surprised to see. It was Minori, Ren's elder sister, who had just gotten married recently. Sumire exclaims it's been a while since they saw, while Minori replies that she is as energetic as ever. Ren announces they ran into each other nearby, while Minori replies that she decided to drop by to see how he was doing. He asks her how married life is, to which she replies that she is too old to gush about being newlywed, and asks how he is doing, only for him to laugh, saying he is the same as always, and she concurs with him. Minori looks away, asking Ren to talk to him in private, while Ren asks what the matter is. They went outside to talk as Minori informed him that their father had fallen and was back to normal now, but he was really worried about Ren. She tells him she got married and the family is not going to fall apart, but it must bother their father as a parent, finally telling Ren to go and see him sometime soon, which Ren agrees to. She bids them goodbye as Sumire responds to her and she leaves. Sumire asks Ren if his father is worried about something, surprising Ren, who confirms that she heard what they discussed. He explains to Sumire that everyone around him is getting married and having kids while he is still a bachelor, so his father is worried if he is going to be alright, making Sumire a bit confused. Sumire apologizes to Ren, telling him it is because of her, but he denies it and tells her he has not really been cut out for romance, which isn't Sumire's fault, and he would just tell his father to give up on that issue, making Sumire's eyes open wide in realization. The following day, Ren eats his dinner quietly while Sumire peeks at him, knowing the previous day's issue is still disturbing Ren as she eats quietly, which is unusual. During the night, he sits by the window quietly staring into the sky and doesn't sense Sumire's presence behind him as she peeks. The following day, Sumire studies her book on human psychology. She checks about marriage, staring closely and studying it, and exclaims after finding something attractive to her. When Ren gets back from work that day, he exclaims how stressed he is while she calls out to him, telling him she had a great idea. She points at herself and asks Ren why he doesn't marry her. Ren was swept off his feet by that. He was totally taken by surprise and left his mouth wide open. He then questions her if she knows what marriage is, which she agrees to and tells him it is when they become pairs. She tells him she thought about it, and it seems like as long as she is around, it would be difficult for him to marry a human female, so he should just marry her, and she will put his parents at ease. Ren remains speechless after hearing this. She packs her hair well, brightly telling him if it will serve him, she will become a female human from that day. Ren cuts her, this time telling her it is crazy. She's a vampire, and leaving a lie will leave her unhappy. She replies that she will be happy and confesses to Ren that she has loved him for a long time now. Sumire kneels and calls out to Ren and asks him if he loves her. Ren becomes confused and terrified as he exclaims, "Oh man," into the night. Kirishima Rosario shows her first semester's report card to Lotus and says she got a bunch of well done on it for performing well. Lotus gets happy after seeing her report card, so she starts to clap for her and asks if she did her best. Kirishima says thanks to her and gives all the credit to her. Then Lotus says the girls who do their best deserve a reward and asks her what she would like as a gift. Kirishima is wondering what she should choose, and Lotus tells her that she should take her time and think about it, as summer vacation starts tomorrow after all. Meanwhile, on the other side, on a train, Amari cries and says that all these young kids are on summer vacation, lucky them, and Raspberry tells him that whining about it is not going to make him feel any better. Then Amari tells her that his boss who rides him so hard has been out injured for a while now, and that alone makes him feel like he's on a summer vacation too. Raspberry says, he says, will wonders never cease, and he says that he is getting off a set time today, so he is going to come home and binge through all that anime that has been piling up. Bikumo's parents are waiting for him, and they say he should be here soon and he shouldn't bring his girlfriend to introduce her on such a rainy day, but Ren never thinks about things like that. Ren's dad says that, but he is still curious, and then finally Ren arrives with Sumire. Sumire has decided that it is fine to meet Ren's parents, as she has decided that she will live like a human from now on, and there is no reason she will not be able to get along with Ren-san's parents. She greets Ren's parents when she arrives at their place and tells them that she is the woman who has been dating Ren-san and asks them to call her Sumire. After meeting Ren's parents, when Sumire comes back home, she says she was so nervous while meeting his parents. Then she asked Ren if she properly came across as a human female, and Ren tells her that she was perfect. Sumire gives it her all to hold a conversation, and Ren says to her that his parents said she's a nice and energetic girl. After listening to this, Sumire takes a breath of relief. Ren says it has been a while since he last saw his parents, so it was a relief for him too, as he is feeling refreshed right now. Ren smiles, and Sumire gets shocked that he finally smiled and says all that hard work had a point after all. Ren says he feels bad that he is making her do something so ridiculous just so he can save a little face. Sumire grinds and then says that he said it again and she is doing this because she wants to do it. Anyway, he said that it was too soon for them to get married, so that is why they established that they are doing this going out thing. She asks him if it is like a trial period and then says hearing her relationship with Ren-san was still in the trial stage is a bit of a shock for her. Ren mentions it was out of the blue and his parents would have been surprised too, and she thinks that there wasn't any getting around then. Sumire says now that she calmed down and reviewed their current situation, they are in the period directly preceding marriage called going out, so this going out, what exactly does it involve? Ren gets shocked after hearing this question from her, and then he asks her, why don't they just keep getting along like they have up until now? Sumire thinks he is playing dumb. There is no way he doesn't know about it either. Sumire brings out the laptop and says, Mimosa, since I taught her when she doesn't know anything, then she should look it up, and she types in about men and women going out activities. Sumire learns about dates and trips, but she cannot go out during the daytime, so she adds nighttime to her search filter. She learns about sharing love at night and says that it sounds fun. She is a vampire, so she is not equipped to produce or create, but she would love to try sharing love. Ren tells her that a vampire and a human wouldn't produce anything, and she says she knows it is true, but there is always that honey trap thing. Ren asks what it is, and she says it is one of the techniques vampires use to get close to humans. They make themselves appear to be a member of the opposite gender and perform a sharing love procedure. Then she says Hellug said it was a bad technique that reduced one's pride as a vampire, but he never went into detail about it. Therefore, she thinks it is perfect for them now to share love and says she will look up how to do it right now. She keeps looking for the procedure, and Ren tells her to wait and let's take things one step at a time. Both of them decide how to start the first step, and Sumire says going out is surely hard, so they should think of something. In the dust box, in her sublevels, Raspberry says that they got orders to go and get another human. Raspberry says those people don't know how to do it, and they say they drink, they dry. She says she cannot really help what kids do, and they decide to get over this quickly. The last human had some interesting stuff on them. Ren tells Sumire about a farewell party at one of his senpai, who helped him out when he started being transferred, and she says he was talking about this before a drinking party. She says that she understands, but he has to understand that he cannot eat any foods with garlic in them, and Ren says he knows about it. Ren-san goes out to meet his friend, and Sumire is home alone, and she keeps waiting for him. While staying up and waiting for Ren, she says it is so lonely on days when Ren-san stays out late, and she guesses he is also going to eat out. After waiting for a while, she gets the scent of Ren-san, so she runs towards the door because she thinks he is coming. When she opens the door, she is in shock because two guys are carrying Ren-san back home. Thus, she asks what is all this, and the guys tell her they kept giving him a wild number of drinks because it was their last time together, and Sumire says sorry to them because they have to go out of their way. Both of the Kuhai take the leave, and Sumire bids them a nice night. While walking in the corridor, Kuhai discusses that Ren has a girlfriend and they didn't know about it. They think she is really cute too, and they think Ren and Sumire are really close too. Meanwhile, Sumire is trying to wake Ren up and she keeps trying, but he is not in his consciousness, so he keeps saying no abnormalities here. Sumire replies that it doesn't seem like he is and asks if he is this zoned out, then there is nothing to do but put him to his bed. However, before that, he has to brush his teeth because she is a vampire and teeth are their life, so they are absolutely very serious about brushing their teeth. She lays him on her lap and tells Ren to open his mouth so she can brush, but she cannot see his face because of the big confidence she has. While brushing his teeth, she says this is very hard and then tells him to spit it out because she is done brushing. She puts some water in, but Ren gulps all the water, and she says that it counts as hydrating themselves. She then drags him to his bed and puts him on his bed, but then she remembers she hasn't had her dinner, the fluid drinking, yet. She goes inside the bedsheet and opens Ren's shirt to drink some fluid, but Ren changes his side and she is stuck between his arms. Ren then says thanks to her while sleeping and she falls in love with him even more. The next morning, Ren opens his eyes and asks when he even gets home and says everything is spinning. He must be zoned out. He gets up and bids good morning to Sumire and asks why is she all the way in that corner all alone. Ren then realizes that his clothes are all torn up and they are covered in fluid. Just as human love lies closer to sharing, vampire love lies closer to hunger, and when emotions run high and there are cases where hunger is no longer able to be suppressed. Sumire thinks she is hurting Ren really badly, and she absolutely cannot tell him about that while Ren is thinking if he did something to her. Amari-kun shows his sales result to Raspberry excitedly, that he is in the number 2 position in their sales team, but Raspberry calls him a loser and says he should get excited when he becomes number 1. Amari gets disappointed and he asks her not to say that and says what he's getting at is, he was thinking maybe he has just earned a reward. Raspberry says this is wrong and she supposes that he has been working hard without any reward and she says it might be about time to give him a little something. Amara gets excited after hearing this and he takes out an outfit from his closet, saying he wants her to wear this. Raspberry asks him if this is all he ever asked for and asks if she's going to dress up like a doll now. She says it is not a big deal as long as it motivates him, and Amari finally finds the outfit for her to wear. Raspberry wears the outfit and says this is just plain old lady's loungewear. She asks him if he really wants this as a reward, and Amari says she doesn't get it at all. A girl wearing loungewear is a flawless sight that every man loves, and even so, only a handful are lucky enough to ever be able to worship it. It's about to make that a reality and is going to cross this bad boy off his bucket list. Raspberry asks him if he doesn't feel ashamed at all to ask that, and he says that gaze is also wonderful. Raspberry mentions he is hopeless, and then he says while wearing that he would love if she could sit here and asks to let him use her lap as a pillow and pat his head. While he puts his head on her lap, he says this might be doing something for him too, and she tells him to stop saying things like that and give her some fluid. Then she thinks he still seems to be making good progress at work. If he climbed up to second from the top with a little help, she can make him number 1. The next night, Raspberry says Amari's office is on this floor and finally finds him in the office. She goes near him to appreciate his effort because it is Friday and he is still working hard over here. Then she sees the top-ranked co-worker on Amari's team, Igarashi Luke. She thinks if she removes him from the list, then Amari will move up to first place. Igarashi goes near his co-worker to ask if he needs his help, and his co-worker tells him that he is nowhere close to being finished with the presentation documents. Raspberry thinks he is showing his hand to higher-ranked opponent, and he is giving him all he can to spy things, which is why Amari is stuck in second place. Igarashi completes the work quickly, and Amari asks if he has done that quickly, and then checks the work. Amari sees that Igarashi even worked too well, and Igarashi says he just used the template he got from one of their senpai, while Raspberry has stepped away from the computer. She says if he shows even a moment of weakness to a vampire, it is all over for him. She makes a plan to send dirty little details of the transaction he is undertaking with this client to the wrong client, and by doing this, she will be able to completely vanish the trust that people have in him. The girl says to Igarashi that the company's performance is down overall, but they just keep increasing their quotes, and he says that is a recession for her. He says they might be the generation that takes the hit, but that is how they ended up as friends, so they should do their best together. Raspberry thinks this is so reliable for him. Raspberry says it may be true that their generation was born into the very worst of times, but what else can they do but keep on living? Lotus replies that they should do their best. The girl in the office shows Igarashi the work she has done, and he says she did nice work and then asks her if she wants to grab a drink with him. Raspberry replies that she has to go home because someone is waiting for her, and then receives a message from Raspberry that she has a thing to take care of, so she will not be able to come home tonight. Then the girl says to Igarashi that they can go to grab a drink now. Igarashi gets happy and says now they are talking, and Raspberry is keeping an eye on him for a little longer. Lotus then appears and asks Raspberry what is she doing in a place like this, and asks if she is having a fluid pack tonight. Raspberry says sometimes she feels like drinking some fluid. Then Lotus says she is not the kind of girl who ever feels like that, and Raspberry tells her to shut up. Sumire is sitting at a table thinking about something. After thinking for a bit, she slams on the table and gets up. Then she looks for something in the laundry basket but can't find anything that she is looking for, so she opens the fridge, takes out the milk, and places it next to Ren's shirt. She sniffs his shirt, gulps the milk, and sniffs again. She keeps doing this and then slams the milk pack on the table in anger. Ever since the previous incident where she went out of control, her appetite continued to grow. Every day, she suppressed her hunger by sniffing a shirt with Ren's scent on it and drinking milk, which was of a similar consistency to fluid. Today alone, she drank 3 cartons of milk, and she bought them with Ren-san's money too. While she is wondering what to do, her educator, Kikyu, enters and says pardon her for entering like this. She just came for a little health check. Sumire is crying and tells everything to her educator, and then says at this rate, she will drink out all the Ren's fluid, and he will be no more. Her educator says for them vampires, when it comes to being close to humans, as their feelings of love grow, they seem to have a tendency to thirst for their fluid more and more. She says all it means is that she cares for that guy and by no means is a bad thing, but she wants to give her a little piece of advice. She asks Sumire why doesn't she try taking a little break from suppressing her hunger with milk. Sumire gets shocked and asks if she doesn't have milk, she will get hungry, and Kikyu tells her if she only drinks a specific amount of fluid, she should be able to get all her nutrients. Kikyu says between fluid and milk, the milk is hundreds of times less nutrients than fluid. That being the case, her body demands more and more milk, and over-reliance on it can lead to so-called excess eating. With that, her suffering would only continue to increase, and it would be better to resist and accustom herself to hunger, and Sumire understand it all. Sumire says she will give it a try, and Kikyu says there is nothing to worry about. Sumire is worried about whether or not the lad will return her feelings, which is why she is drinking fluid to confirm how he feels, and humans call this love. Kikyu tells her that as her relationship deepens, this love will become trust of love from a human and a vampire. She will become 2 lives drawn together, and once she understands how that feels, she should calm down and shouldn't give up. Sumire asks Kikyu with a happy face why she knows so much about this. Could it be that she actually had some experience with that? Kikyu leaves without replying and asks her to say hello to Ren for her. Ren gets back home and thinks if someone is here while Raspberry is keeping an eye on the kids and says nobody wants to hear some old talking about the olden days, and she feels jealous. Lotus wishes Rosario a happy birthday, and Rosario asks her in shock if she knows when her birthday is. Lotus replies of course she knows about it and tells her when she gets back from school, they will have a party to celebrate, and Rosario gets super excited about it. She runs towards the school and Raspberry asks Lotus if it is her birthday. Lotus says that she would like her to help with the preparations as she doesn't seem to have much going on right now anyway, and Raspberry agrees with her. Then Raspberry says going to such lengths is really spoiling her, and Lotus replies that she has surveilled some other kids of Rosario's age, and it seems like it is something that every family celebrates, so she would like her to experience some normalcy. Raspberry says the world is an unfair place, and personally she believes that she would be better off teaching her to use her failures and shortcomings as a springboard for growth, and Lotus asks her not to say that. In school, Rosario is waiting for the party, while at home the preparations begin. Lotus says that Rosario loves strawberries and they should put the whole bunch of them on the cake. While Raspberry is thinking if she isn't a little too into this, Lotus says for the spun sugar decoration on top, they should make it look like Hana-chan. Raspberry asks what is Hana-chan, and Lotus tells her that it is Rosario's precious teddy bear, and she wonders if Rosario will like it or not. Raspberry thinks he has got it bad, and then Lotus says after completing the kitchen stuff that they need to decorate the apartment now. She throws all the stuff quickly and begins to decorate everything. She tells Raspberry to do things neatly while Raspberry sniffs a scent and says this is a scent of Rosario. But it is too early for her to get back home, but the scent is certainly similar. She tells Lotus that the scent is coming this way, and then both of them hide in the attic to scope things out. Someone opens the door with a key and says the place is clean and thinks if this is really their apartment. It is Rosario's mother, and she looks out if it is her apartment and then sees Hana-chan placed on the table. Thus, she recognizes that it is her apartment, while Raspberry says that she supposes it is Rosario's mother. She hasn't shown herself for months and months, but now she suddenly turns up and she seems very suspicious. Lotus says this place used to be a total dump, overflowing with trash, and Raspberry says at any rate they should withdraw for now. She tells Lotus that they should go now, but Lotus says she will not go because what is Rosario going to think if she comes back from school and she is not here at her mother, who abandoned her? Rather than feeling relieved her mother is back, wouldn't she feel bad at the return of her old life, where she couldn't even eat properly? Lotus decides that they are not leaving and that they are deciding here right now, as she promised Rosario a party after all. She asks Raspberry if she will stick with her for a while, and Raspberry agrees with her, and Rosario's mother finally leaves the apartment. Lotus and Raspberry say hello to her outside the apartment and tell her that they just moved in next door. That was months ago, but they finally met. Rosario's mother is looking at her clueless and Lotus doesn't know what to say now. Rosario's mother comes back home and sees Lotus and Raspberry in there, so she wonders who are these people. Lotus says that he has been lucky enough to become friends with Rosario-chan and they did some cleaning and so on together. Rosario's mother looks around and understands why the house is clean and tidy. However, she doesn't care at all and says if that is all then she's going back inside. Raspberry is done with her attitude and she says she has a bad attitude there and hates people like her. Lotus looks at her and Raspberry annoyingly asks him what happened and Lotus grinds his teeth afterwards. He asks her if she is going to lecture him on how to properly take care of Rosario and Rosario's mother says if that is the case then she has already had her fill of that, so she is thankful for it. She slams the door and a girl comes in saying that her parents separated while she was still very young and her father brought her to this country and he passed before she reached her childhood. After that, she was supported by a man she had a relationship with, though that lifestyle was by no means stable at all. It is because, as her debts increased, she abandoned her daughter and disappeared, and here they are now. Rosario's mother's name is Kirishima Eleonora, and Lotus asks her if she is a debt collector and says it is not quite, though not far off. Lotus starts to tell the story and says 20 years ago, Kirishima Eleanor used to live with her dad, but he brought her to this country. While she tells the story, Kirishima Eleanor is having a flashback of everything that has happened. The time she moved to a different country, the time she was left alone, and the time she had another human in her life. After listening to the story, Kirishima asks him what is so important there and asks what he wants from her. She says if it is money, then he is free to go as she has no money right now. Raspberry thinks that is the thing. What is it he hopes to gain by confronting a woman like her? Meanwhile, Lotus smiles and asks Eleanor to make a deal with him with an evil smile on his face. Kirishima Eleanor shockingly asks him why would she make a deal with him because this is how it was and how it has always been. She didn't do anything and she doesn't know why is everyone after her. Eleanor seems very disturbed and she says she doesn't know and cannot understand why is everything like that and why is everyone pointing at her. She is done with everything and she wants to go home now. After she is done talking, Lotus angrily says while she has her back against the wall she shouldn't forget that Rosario is struggling too and he is sure she had a hard life. Even so, he is also sure that all this was her own choice to make. When Lotus says this, Raspberry gets shocked and stays quiet after hearing these words from him. Lotus seems very angry and he says beyond that, she has given birth to another life so she should always remember that. Eleanor replies that it is so simple for him because all he needs to do is to blame it all on her and Lotus says that is what he is telling her and he asks her to make a deal with him. Meanwhile, on the other side, the school bell rings and a girl asks Rosario-chan if she wants to go to the park with her. However, Rosario isn't interested and she says sorry to her as she has something important to do today. The girl understands her and says sure, they will go some other time. Rosario walks out of the school and walks directly towards the home. Lotus welcomes her back and wishes her a happy birthday. Rosario gets happy and says thanks to him for wishing her well. Lotus wants to continue the party without any further ado, so he brings in the cake and Rosario gets excited after seeing the cake. He says Raspberry makes the dress on the teddy and Rosario says it is incredible. She goes near Raspberry and asks her if she can teach her how to make this dress sometime soon. Raspberry agrees to do it and Rosario gets happy. All of them get ready for the cake cutting ceremony and Rosario says she has always wanted to eat a big piece of cake and eats the biggest piece. She enjoys the cake and says it is too good and Lotus feels glad to hear from her that she liked the cake. However, Rosario starts to feel sad and Lotus asks her what is it. Rosario says that she was just thinking if only her mother could have some of this cake as well. Lotus shockingly looks at her and says she is so kind. After enjoying the party, Rosario goes to bed and Lotus asks Raspberry if Rosario is asleep and she says yes, she is asleep now. Lotus thanks her for the help and Raspberry says it is not like she had anything better to do. Raspberry goes near a bedroom and claims that it seems like it is pretty quiet in there and Lotus says he will go to have a look. He opens the door and asks Eleanor if she can process the situation a little. She says they are vampires and she doesn't like it but she understands it. Lotus brings the remaining cake for her and says they should discuss the deal as they do not have time and Eleanor understands the task. Sumire is staring at Ren while he is sleeping and she wonders what kind of dream he is having while he is having a loving dream in which he is trying to share his love with Sumire. Lotus explains to Eleanor that the terms of the deal are exceedingly simple. He will provide her with suitable living conditions and in return, she will provide him with an appropriate amount of fluid. He says Rosario will stay with him and regarding the fluid that she should be providing, he will have her shoulder that burden and provide roughly 1.5 people's share of fluid. He tells her to think of it as fulfilling parental rules. While eating the cake, Eleanor says it is not like she can get away from him anyway, and she agrees with it. Lotus thinks as things stand now, she can't feel sorry, and it will take some time for him to turn this situation around. Lotus gets up and says that they should go back to their work, and Eleanor asks him where is he taking her this time. Lotus asks her if she doesn't want to go back home, back to her hometown, and Eleanor asks her if she has to go right now. He takes her out and says she used to live up there about halfway up that mountain, and it seems like no one lives there now, so let them proceed to the town at the foot of the mountains. Eleanor couldn't believe that they crossed the ocean in an instant, but she knew the dry air and the nostalgic scent of this soil. Both of them finally reach the town, and Eleanor tells Lotus that they used to come to this restaurant all the time, and she guessed it still hasn't gone out of business. Lotus says since they are there, they should go in and have something to eat. He says he will wait outside until she's back because he cannot go in there as he cannot eat. Eleanor goes into the restaurant, and a guy comes near her and says it feels like he knows her from somewhere. Eleanor introduces herself and says she used to live up the mountains a long time ago, and the guy says it takes him back as she just looks like her mother, and he'd heard rumors that she had quite a bit of trouble back then. The guy asks her to share any troubles she's facing today as he is there for her. After eating the dinner, they go to a nearby home, and Lotus says they will be staying here for tonight. Both of them go in there, and the manager gives them a variety of identification documents. Lotus says they are the copy of the originals for now, but later on, it will be the real thing. He decides to put off taking any fluid until tomorrow, and he asks Eleanor why doesn't she have a drink for tonight and relax. Eleanor takes the drink and says he is a sweetheart, and Lotus asks her to at least use a glass because she gulps the drink through the bottle. At night, they go to their room, and Eleanor goes to bed to sleep. She says to Lotus that she doesn't get him at all and asks if he is this generous to Rosario as well. Lotus says no, he is more generous perhaps because Rosario is a much more well-behaved girl than her after all. Eleanor smiles after listening to that and goes back to lie down. She says she feels too good, and if she is no more right now, then it would be more amazing. Lotus asks her not to forget the deal, and Eleanor says she doesn't care and asks him to end everything right now. Lotus says it would be better if she just goes to bed right now, and Eleanor asks him not to ignore her. Lotus then asks her if it isn't a bit lonely to sleep alone and says he brought a friend for her. Eleanor shockingly asks him, what is he even talking about, and gets up to see what it is. Lotus gives her the teddy she used to have in her childhood and asks what is his name. Eleanor says its name is Rex, and Lotus says it seems like Rex was a little lonely and he is a bit upset with her. He asks her to apologize to Rex and tells her to make sure not to leave him behind anymore. Eleanor picks up the teddy and says he is late. He should have shown up 20 years ago. She says if he had come a little sooner, maybe she wouldn't have turned out like this. She says these words and goes to sleep, and Raspberry says she wonders what he is up to, but that is that settled. As ever, she doesn't understand humans. They are mother and daughter, but they seem like complete opposites. She makes Rosario seem like a real cutie, but then Raspberry gets a little weird and says she thinks they are alike. Both of them, from here on out. Meanwhile, Sumire and Ren's life have been in too much trouble. However, time passed just as it always does, and from outside, Sumire and Ren's relationship began to look more and more like that of a married couple. She makes food for him, and he appreciates her cooking as usual. Once, Sumire asks Ren how was his work today, and he says that he finally got things off his plate. Sumire appreciates his work, and then Ren asks her what about her. Sumire replies that today she checked out a brand new supermarket and she heard that eggs and other stuff were cheap there. Then she says those other two are giving it their all, so she figured that she should better do something too. Raspberry has been pulling all sorts of strings, and she's helping her partner climb up the corporate ladder. She heard that Lotus has a mother and daughter supporting him separately. Sumire should expect nothing less from either of them, and it would be nice if she could be even a little as amazing as they are. Ren listens to her and then says that he thinks it is nice that he gets to have her as a partner. Sumire smiles after hearing it and says she loves him. While they are showing their love to each other, Principal Sensei shows up and says it seems the two of them are getting along. He says this is a surprise check-in, and he only ever sees glowing praise in the reports on them, so he decided to check on the situation himself, and it appears that he didn't need to be worried at all. The principal says there are a few more weeks left in the interspecies love test, and he asks them not to relax just yet. Principal Sensei continues by saying that a serious problem has been developing and asks them if they are aware of those called flies. Rena asks if he is talking about bugs. Principal Sensei says those are the children born into the prisons of Dustbox, and they are called that about flies that land on garbage. Normally, they wouldn't receive any fluid and therefore wouldn't grow. However, someone has been supplying them with fluid through underground channels, and a number of them grew up who had to be in prison. Beyond that, the flies have been taking people from the human world and gathering fluid, and the number of those incidents is expected to increase before long. Principal Sensei claims that they are a danger to both humans and vampires, and he asks them to contact him without any delay if they see any of them. Principal Sensei wishes them good luck and leaves the place. Ren says now that he thinks of it, there have been a few news stories about people disappearing lately and Sumire finds it dangerous. She asks him to be careful too just in case she's going to put her scent on him. After hearing it, Ren starts to laugh because he thinks of it as a joke. Meanwhile, in the dust box, someone asks Cedar if he's going to be alright on his own and he says he will be fine as he has done a bunch of looks on his own. He claims that he is already fully grown so there's no need to worry. Cedar says this to his partner Azalea, who seems worried about him. Cedar then asks her to drink enough, both for herself and the one who's going to come into this world. Azalea cannot understand him because he started to act manly all of a sudden. She then shows love to him and asks him to come back soon, and Cedar asks her to leave it to him as he can handle it on his own. He says he is going to bring a big one, and Azalea asks him to come back right away if he runs into any trouble, and Cedar understands the task given to him by his loved one.